Hello and welcome back, everybody. Welcome back to the channel.
Hello.
I am your host, as usual, Stephen Stark, but you know that you're really here because of the excellent guests we have this week. Returning to the channel is, let me get it's backwards, Nessie. Hi, Nessie. You've been on a couple of times. Good friend of the channel, the big sister I never had. Nessie, say hi to everyone. Introduce yourself. Tell them where they can follow you on Twitter.
Hi,
or whatever.
everyone. Yeah, or whatever. Yeah. Hi, everyone. I'm glad everybody's here today. I hope you're keyed up for some Expanse talk. I hope you watch season 1 because we're going to break it down today.
Right on. And if you want to follow Nessie on Twitter, and you should because she's awesome, she is at One Questing Beast. Her link is in the description. And welcome to the channel for the first time, John something Webster at John Webster Film on Twitter. I'm messing with you, buddy. I'm messing with you. John Webster, welcome to the channel. Say hi to everyone. Introduce yourself.
Hey, everyone. It's really weird to be on this end. My name is John Webster. You know that already. I'm excited to be here to talk. If you want to find me on Twitter, I'm at John Webster Film because I love movies.
Right on. And again, his Twitter link is in the description. Easy, one click, and you're there. And hit follow, and you should. Good guy, good lady.
Thank you.
They make me look like a terrible person. Anyway, we're here to talk about my favorite show that I discovered this year, The Expanse. A year ago, I had seen exactly one episode out of order, but a few months ago, I got into the show and I fell hard, like a schoolboy in love. And I've watched the whole series twice now. We're only talking about season 1 today because, John, when did you finish season 1?
Let's see. It probably was about 5 or 6 days ago.
Right.
And I proceeded to watch it again.
Right. So all you've seen of this show is season 1. Is that right?
Yep.
Okay. John, you seem to have frozen a little bit there.
Oh, did I?
Nessie, why don't you tell us about how you came into the show, and then we'll go on from there.
Okay, well, I saw the trailers for it when it was, being announced, and I
You're
thought,
back, John.
Okay.
oh, that looks like something I'd really like. And then, I don't have Sci-Fi Channel. So I'm like, okay. And then Ashaya started talking about it on History of Westeros on their streams last year. And I said, that really looks good. And I wish I had it. Then I got Amazon Prime and I'm like, I'm going to put this on the list. So I did. I watched it. And I was like, yeah, I've been really missing out.
Yeah, it's fantastic. Okay, so John, I'm sorry, you did cut out there for a second, but you're back.
Fine. If that becomes an issue, just let me know, and I'll move out into the living room where I should have a stronger signal, but hopefully it won't. So I got into the show because you talked me into it.
Right on.
And I almost didn't get very far because, I watched about 10 minutes and then I decided, man, I hate this.
Don't do that to me. I know what you're talking about. And you did not hate it 10 minutes in. Don't lie to the people.
Don't lie. Don't lie.
Oh, God.
But your humor is appreciated.
Yeah.
Okay, so for those of you that don't know, John loved, what is it? Dark Crystal Age of Resistance.
Yeah, you know exactly what it was.
Well, I had to think of the name of it. And I watched about 10 minutes of it and decided I didn't like it at all. So, yeah, you're trolling me, man. But I appreciate it. Well played, sir.
No, okay. So I'll get serious now. No, I had actually heard of the show years back, probably right before it started. But I have to be honest, after watching the trailer for it, it came off to me. There were a string of shows, science fiction shows that came in sort of the wake of Battlestar Galactica that felt to me like they were just trying to not to put too fine a point on it, but rip it off, and kind of do the Battlestar Galactica thing. And I remembered in the trailers they really focused on sort of weird elements. Like, I remember one of the takeaways from the trailer being, oh, there's a couple having sex in space. And
there is, by the way.
Yeah, there is, but it just.
And how would that work?
I don't know, but I'm willing to be an experiment and find out.
It seemed weird, and also I wasn't overly impressed by who I saw in the cast, which seems ridiculous now. But
right,
because hold on a second, let me. I have like the whole cast list here, so I don't look like an idiot. Okay, so I saw that it had Thomas Jane in it, which this is probably a bit unfair, but my perception of him as an actor without having seen a whole lot of his work was that maybe he wasn't exactly a prestige actor.
Right.
Because I think the one thing I saw him in, years and years back was this movie Deep Blue Sea, which is one of those, it's so bad it's good.
Shark movie?
Yeah. And so it just wasn't a show that was on my radar. And it's funny because I was telling this to Nessie, Miller ended up being like one of my absolute favorite characters. So
yeah, we'll get to Miller. He's and I'm with you. Like, my journey with Miller was interesting, to say the least.
Yeah.
But I want to say hi to the people who showed up and were saying hi in the chat. So let's give a quick shout out to everybody. I see Robbie Meeson, Anna Iglesias, John Webster said something. Who's that? Will I Am Bo, Kwahuatli 2004. Hello. I butcher your name every week. I know I do, but you're here every week, so I got to keep trying. And maybe I'm getting better. I wouldn't know if I was getting better or worse. Leaf Underhill, a.k.a. Mother of Tribbles. Big supporter. Jaded Redhead, Kelly. Hi, how you doing?
Hi, Kelly.
Betsy Mitchell, that's my mom. Hi, Mom. Love ya. Will Meeson. I know I saw some other people too.
Bernie L.
Will Moss. Is Bernie in the chat? I haven't made it that far down.
Oh, Bernie's in.
Sunflower Beth, Bright Spots, Catherine Harding, Peter Griffin, Bernie, my sister from another mister. I'm glad all you fine folks were able to make it, and hopefully we'll pick up a few more on the way. All right, so cool. So, season 1 of The Expanse. I did not fall in love with this show until season 2, although I knew I really enjoyed it by about episode 4.
Fair. Yeah. Episode 4 is what did it.
Yeah, but and like, John, wait for season 2. Buckle up, buddy, because it's a ride.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
Strap in.
Okay, so I'm not sure what format we're going to do. Nessie put in a lot of work doing like episode by episode breakdowns for us. So, Nessie, if you don't mind, I'm going to put you in the driver's seat for a minute. Is that all right?
Okay.
If not, I mean, I can handle it.
Sure.
Good luck keeping me focused, though. I might jump around from episode to episode.
Well, we got to think about what's moving you at the moment, too. So that's fine.
Well, there's a lot that happens in season 1, and the outline was really as much for my benefit as for you guys, because I have a hard time remembering things. So I thought, I don't want to talk about this, and it's in the wrong episode or what have you. But so the first episode is Dulcinea, season 1, and one of the things that's going to be a running theme is there are many references to Don Quixote. And Dulcinea was Don Quixote's girlfriend, sweetheart, which is, I think, what it means, even though we determined today that I do not speak Italian.
Well, Don Quixote is Spanish, anyway.
Or Spanish. Or anything besides apparently Southern. Thanks, Kelly. But yes, it's a Don Quixote reference. So... and this is just basically, getting the players. Let's meet the players. Let's see who's on the scorecard. We get a little bit of introduction to some of the politics and the settings for the season.
Yeah, I mean, the thing that always is there's two things that are always going to stand out to me from episode 1. And the first is like what happens to the Canterbury right there at the end. Who can forget, nuking an entire ship full of innocent people. It's a hell of a way to start But also Christian Avasarala's introduction in this episode is epic in a way that's hard for me to fully articulate, I think.
It's pretty harsh.
Well, it's like the first time you see her, she's clearly she's an aging woman, aging gracefully, I might add, but she's clearly an aging lady. But her wardrobe is a character on its own in this show, I think. And she looks so regal and dignified in that first shot of her. And then, gets a water balloon thrown at her and has a tickle attack on her grandson. And it's like, oh, what a nice, sweet grandma. And then she's literally goes from that to torturing this belter. And I'm like, okay, this is a character with layers that we're going to peel back as time goes on. So
yes,
she was my first favorite character, and her introduction is 100% of the reason why.
Oh, you're not going to like this.
Okay.
I did not like her in the first episode. As a first introduction, I was like, oh, so she's the evil queen.
I got you. I see where you could, I get it.
Yeah. That opinion shifted massively over the first season, and she's absolutely amazing.
Yeah. Now I will say this: I didn't know if she was the evil queen or not. I thought she might be, but that doesn't mean I didn't love her character. Because I'm like, this woman is interesting.
I think it comes down to what I'm going to say a lot about this season of the show is that it falls into expectations, and I've seen her. And I've seen that actress play sort of these villainous, government types in the past. And so it set me up for thinking, oh, this is another one of those. It didn't prepare me for how layered of a performance we were going to get. And not just the performance, but the character itself. And so, it goes without saying, by the end of the season, I was completely fascinated with her character, but yeah, just in all honesty, I feel that way off the start.
The more that you find out about her character as the season goes on, you get to a point where she's having a conversation with another female, and she reveals something very personal that makes that scene where she is torturing the OPA agent. It doesn't excuse it, but it gives a little more insight as to where she's coming from.
Yep. She is not evil. She is chaotic good.
Oh, yeah.
Chaotic, that's for sure.
I mean, the OPA agent might feel differently, but that's how it goes.
Well, he was an admitted terrorist who was, again, I'm not pro-torture. I don't want anybody to think I am, but he was a bad guy. He was a terrorist smuggling stolen weapons technology. It was stealth technology, but
Right. Yeah.
He deserved to be imprisoned.
Well, see, for me, it's not about whether that's excusable or not. I just, that's an argument that you can fall on either side of. But it's the fact that, even if, I don't, I don't want to get into politics here, but I have very strong feelings about her actions in the first episode. but the fact that she's so interesting a character, and that I find her fascinating to watch, as the season progresses, that's a testament that even if there's elements of a character that I don't like, and that's even the case with I said Miller is one of my favorite characters, and even with him, he's got sides of him that aren't that admirable at times, and so it's all about painting the whole picture and getting to see characters who are complex and interesting.
I couldn't agree.
That makes any sense.
Actually, it does make sense, and I couldn't agree more. Bernie's asking, when does season 4 drop? Mom just answered. It's December 13th.
Yay.
And all episodes December 13th, and probably doing some kind of review of some portion of season 4 on December 15th, which is the Sunday after. So
buckle up.
We'll see. We'll see. But back to season 1. We're going to have to move through these, not super fast, but we need to keep moving.
And I just want to make sure I get time to say something before we move to the next.
Sure.
I will say, because I know there was a lot of discussion about these first couple episodes, and people saying maybe they're not the best, or slow. Yeah. Okay. And that's fair, because as I said, I didn't really lock into the show for a couple more episodes, but going back to rewatch them, I felt immeasurably different about it. And I think that the first couple episodes, and especially the first episode, is just not just a case of phenomenal world building, but great world building for the show you expect to see, and not even the show that you're getting, because it feels like we could be on the Canterbury for the duration of the show. They even have freaking Jonathan Banks playing the XO, and you're like, well, we're obviously going to see more of him.
Is that the guy from Better Call Saul? And yeah, okay.
And and he's got like barely 60 seconds of screen time, and then we're never going to see him again. And that's just
never going to see most of those people again.
It's utterly brilliant. So I just find that fascinating. That's our entry into the show. It's like, yep, I know what the show is going to be, and then at the end, nope. Nothing like that.
Although I will say this, like, the destruction of the Canterbury made me really gun shy to like anyone. Now, Avasarala was separate enough that I'm like, okay, but like anybody that was in space, I'm like, I don't even know if I need to learn these people's names, because they might be dead at the end of the next episode.
I've got people, I'm not going to say who specifically, because I'm scared to death that you guys will give me a facial expression that'll betray something. But I have fears about certain characters that I'm not at all convinced, episode to episode are going to make it. And so that first episode perfectly sets you up for that.
Right. And I will say this, not everybody's going to make it.
Well, I expected that.
Even from season 1, like people you think, not everybody's going to make it, but like it's still incredibly compelling. But again, no season 2 spoilers. Anything else on episode 1? Again, a lot of Miller gets his first case.
Miller gets his case.
Yeah, we're kind of introduced to all the players of season 1 anyway, or at least the majority of them, and some of the attitudes.
Yeah,
like the politics and the attitudes about the different societies.
And what's it mean to be a belter and
That's I was saying a bit about this earlier. My first time through, I really a lot of the stuff went over my head about the different factions and and everything. So that's why I'm really glad I watched it a second time before talking, because I was playing catch up for a lot of season 1, but
right.
So
well, I'm glad you got caught up, man. Mm-hmm. I'm glad you have sort of like the perspective that you do, because like at the end of season 1, I still would have told you that Sharla was my favorite character, but that is not true anymore. Again, I'm getting ahead of myself. Dang it. Shall we just move on to episode 2?
Yeah, let's move on. The next one's called The Big Empty, and it is very appropriately named because obviously the crew, the leftovers, the survivors from the camp are in basically a tin can lifeboat. They're running out of air. They're running out of time, and space is a big empty place when you're alone. So take it away, guys. I like to call that the Hail Mary pass that actually worked.
Right. This is the episode. It's the first episode is world building. This episode is character development.
Right.
So, this episode has very little actual action or plot development, I feel like, which is part of the reason people say that the first few episodes are slow. But you learn, who Holden is, right. Not just from the first episode, but especially the second episode where he starts to talk to Naomi about it. And, you see more of who Amos is as this sort of cutthroatish survival at the cost of everything else.
You realize Naomi is generally the smartest person in the room.
Mm-hmm. Let me just say that this was the beginning of me, sort of oh, so Amos is a little bit psychotic. He's not just a badass character. He can actually really go off the deep end when he just all of a sudden says, I could cut you loose right here, but Naomi wouldn't like it. I'm like,
Naomi wouldn't like it.
Okay.
Yeah, delicious line, by the way.
Yeah. Yeah, that one comes back up a couple of times. So, yeah, they're
Bernie,
they're under
he's vulnerable too. Let's face it. Wes Chatham is a very good-looking man.
No, here's the thing. The first time through watching the show, and I'm gonna say this so many times because I had so many different feelings from first viewing to second viewing. First viewing, I came away like, wow, this SOB is nuts. And I don't know if I like him. Second viewing, I was like, okay, yeah, he's nuts, but he's also freaking hilarious at times.
Well, and it's not just nuts, but he's our nuts.
It's like his deadpan delivery, I'm sorry, this is me skipping ahead to the
That's
end.
all right. Talk about what...
It's when Miller and Holden are, laying, by the hatch, and he comes up, and it's like the camera keeps him in the bottom half of the frame, and he says something to the effect of,
you guys look like
you guys look like hell, or something like that. And it's just hilarious. It's so
it's deadpan, it's funny, it's accurate, and it's just delivered so perfectly. Mm-hmm. All of his lines are.
Yeah. So. Yeah, there's a reason. He'll grow on you. He's my favorite character now, but it took me probably sometime in season 2 to get there, to be honest with you. And he has the best moment in the whole show in season 3, so just look forward to that.
Okay.
My personal opinion. Again, so I don't really actually have a whole lot to say about The Big Empty.
Not really. Just, hey, send out a Hail Mary pass into the universe, and sometimes unexpected people show up.
Mm-hmm. And then there's also you do get Miller starting the Julie Mao case, starting to actually look into it. And this is also where we learn that water is being water
rationing.
The Canterbury was an ice hauler, and when it blew up, that left a void in the infrastructure of Ceres Station. That water was meant for Ceres. So all of a sudden they just didn't have water. One shipment riots, 2 shipments, people are dying. I believe they say that even in the episode.
Right. So it's pretty intense.
Amanda, hi.
Don't take your water for granted. especially if you live in space. All right. So yeah, Stephen just talked about the remember the Canterbury, and that's the title of the next episode. And this is where things are really ramping up with all the tensions, all the water rationing, rioting, tensions between the Belters and Mars, because Holden decided that he would make a little video and put it out on YouTube. And it got about 10 billion views.
Right? Or more.
Or more. And he wasn't telling falsehoods, but not having all of the information. He put some things in motion. He kind of did a little bit.
He made a real Holden out of that situation.
Holden did for sure.
Is that his Catelyn Stark moment?
I don't want to spoil you, but like,
okay, no. All right, don't.
It's a theme.
Here's the thing: James Holden always has good intentions, and what do they say about the road to hell?
Right.
Yeah.
He's that paladin in your group who is always going to tell the truth, who's not going to let anything slide, and generally ends up getting your team in trouble. Am I wrong, Stephen?
I can't disagree with you. I mean, but again, he is a very well-intentioned character, and we'll talk more about Miller after we get through the episode reviews.
No, we need to talk about Miller in this, because isn't this the episode where we meet Anderson Dawes?
I think so. Okay.
He's awesome. I love him.
Yeah, for the same reasons that I loved Christian, because he's so layered.
Yeah.
Yes. And you know this guy's got a story.
He's a selfish asshole, but he's really interesting.
So I find his sort of like the story. Maybe it's not it's not in this episode. So should we just hold off till we get to the...
Yeah. We'll hold off.
It's season 1, Steven. If you want to, just go ahead.
Okay. I don't remember. I think it's maybe episode.
It's either 5 or 6.
I think it's 5.
It's Rock Bottom. It's episode Rock Bottom, the one where Miller gets fired.
Okay. So episode
I think
called Rock Bottom 6 is when Anderson Dawes tells the story of his sister. That is one of the best pieces of writing in that whole season, in my opinion. Again, anybody that knows me knows that I'm going to talk about ethics and morals and what have you. And like, there is an argument, and obviously one of the things that makes Dawes so compelling is that you can understand, even if you don't agree, like my family was starving and she was too fragile, and you had to do what you had to do. We're talking about survival, and when it comes to survival, like,
he said he had 2 other sisters that he had to take care of that were starving, and
I'm getting chills just even thinking about it, because it's not one that, well, my school of thought says this is the only answer. No, I can see both sides of this coin. The problem is, for me, with Anderson Dawes, is that he has taken that and spun it into this whole, we all need to be willing to make sacrifices.
No, and everyone else needs to make sacrifices.
Right. And that's the thing. He talks about, I made a sacrifice, and I would argue that he didn't sacrifice, his sister sacrificed.
Right.
So he was the one to do it and to take care of it afterwards, but like, his sister
sacrificed his soul.
Yeah. Well, so like when Julie Mao is willing to put her life on the line, but Anderson Dawes, he is that charismatic leader that never actually puts himself on the line.
When we talk about episode 9, I'm gonna start tearing up.
All right, well, get your Kleenex ready, because we'll get there sooner rather than later, I'm sure.
All right, and let's see. Remember the can. This is the one where like I said, the Hail Mary pass. Well, the what showed up was the flagship of the Martian Navy, who just happened to be out in the area because of the Phoebe Station incident. I think they had been assigned to go to Phoebe Station to find out what happened to all of the scientists and their lab there. And they have the footage of what they found. And so the
what's the name of that ship, Nessie?
Which ship?
The flagship of the Martian fleet. Come on, you got this.
John
knows.
The Donnie.
See, I had it in my head for a second, and then it left.
You got it, Nessie. You got it, Nessie.
Remember the Donnie.
The Donninger.
So, yes, the Donninger. Oh, God, what a crew. So, yeah, they're taken aboard the Donninger, and the crew is subjected to some other forms of interrogation, which I think is fascinating how the Martians go about interrogating. One of the things that they have is an advanced drug, I think, that their interviewers use, which allows them to be able to pick up any little telltale signs. It makes them hyper aware. They're kind of like human lie detectors.
Yeah, I loved that. The idea of that, the way they subtly work advanced technology into the story.
You're never told what it is.
Right.
So, it's very subtle the way.
But as humans in the modern world, we can intuitively understand that you can take a pill or put something into your body that will alter the way you perceive the world.
Well, it's an example of the show not taking you by the hand.
Right.
It's letting the audience be smart enough to see what
the guy didn't put the thing on the open the case, take the pill out, and goes, when I take this pill, I'm going to be able to detect if you're lying, so don't try to lie to me. That didn't happen. The show expects you to be smart enough to just figure that out. And kudos, because that line is almost that this is a lie detector pill line is kind of like
there's a red pill, here's a blue pill.
Right. Why didn't I take the blue pill?
The blue pill. Yeah. Yeah. So, and the character. Oh, I can't remember his name. See, I should have made a character list. The Martian Marine who's doing the interrogations. Oh, I've seen him in so many other things. I cannot think of his name, and he is absolutely great in everything that he does. One of the other most recent things I saw him in was in Netflix, The Frontier.
Okay, with Momoa.
With Jason Momoa, and he was a fur buyer, and he just plays this beautiful psychopath. If there is such a
beautiful psychopaths on this show,
he's a beautiful psychopath, and then to see him in this very controlled, very military, very minimalist character that lets almost nothing pass. Like
you're almost set up to hate him, but by the end you're like, oh. What a G, what a guy.
It's another example of playing with your expectations. This guy's in the interrogation room, and you're like, okay, I recognize this archetype. I have a firm grasp on what kind of person this guy is, and then it's completely different by the end of the episode, or by the end of the 2 episodes.
That's one of the things that they play with, I think, during the whole show is your perceptions. You're shifting expectations and perceptions of what's going on with what's real. So they really do a great job of that, subverting your expectations.
Indeed.
Yeah. So, and let's see, that's the one where we learned Shed's name.
That's the one where I finally learned Shed's name. I finally was like, I really need to memorize these characters' names. And I'm like, Shed, I kind of like him. He's an interesting character. He's a medic who's crap at his job, and he's too jumpy, but he's starting to come around. And then we get to episode 4, CQB, which is also known as the one where learning Shed's name was a giant waste of time.
Well, it's funny. I don't remember what moment it is, but there is one moment where I couldn't catch if one of the characters said shed or shit. And I'm like,
could be either, to be honest with you.
It really didn't matter.
It was like, I wonder if that's intentional.
Well, yeah.
No, the moment in CQB, it's like for me. It was like, wait, what just happened?
That just happened, and that had to be written in, I think, because the character, behind way back in the history of the Expanse and what it developed from the role-playing game, the person or character that was playing that role just decided, I'm out. So they had to write that in or write him out. And okay.
Yep, they had to kill him off very quickly. I don't know if you knew that, John. I know you watched the first part of the fandom spotlight for the Expanse a few weeks ago, and then you ducked out when we started getting into spoiler territory. Yeah, Shed's
dead.
Shed's dead, man, and that happened because the story of the Rocinante crew began as a tabletop role-playing game group, and they just—I don't know if you heard that part.
I'm remembering now hearing something about that, probably from your guys' discussion, but I'd definitely forgotten it. Because I just assumed it was, simply based off of a book series, and that was the end of it.
Well, it started as a MMO project, then became a tabletop RPG, then became books. But yeah, Shed was written out because
Shed's dead.
Because the guy playing Shed was like, I don't have time.
Yeah, I mean, you had that happen, Stephen. You get in a campaign, and somebody's timetable isn't matching up with what the rest of the can do.
Know it. D&D is my old love, my first love, and I play D&D still to this day. But man, getting 5 adults to have the same time slot off on a regular basis is like next to impossible. There's a meme that's something like, guy wandering in the desert and finds a lamp and he rubs the lamp and the genie pops out and says, you get 3 wishes and they could be anything you want, but there's 3 rules. I can't make somebody fall in love with you. I can't bring somebody back from the dead, and you can't wish for more wishes. And the guy says, okay, I want my D&D group to be able to meet every week. And the genie says, okay, there's a 4th rule.
Relatable, Stephen. Very relatable.
Sorry, this is not the D&D stream, but like, I do find it like the idea of an Expanse style tabletop RPG appeals to me very, very much. I would love to play that.
Oh yeah, and I'm sure. Hey, it might come out. Who knows? As popular as the show is, maybe that RPG might get resurrected. So anyway,
I want to say, hola Vicente Garzón, bienvenidos. Yo hablo un poquito de español. Y muchas gracias, Ana. Anna's talking to Vincent because I don't speak enough Spanish to really fully get what he's asking me. It's a wall of text in Spanish, but thank you, Anna. Appreciate it.
Okay, CQB, that stands for Close Quarter Battle.
And it is where this show puts its foot on the gas and does not stop.
Yes, that is the truth. So you have Mars, which is the biggest military power in the solar system, who's got the latest and greatest bloated military budget.
Did you guys cut out at all? Because
you dropped for a hot second, man.
Okay, so I guess it was me because I had completely lost you guys.
And so CQB, and they basically get their butts handed to them by some new technology that they don't even recognize. But Holden does. He's seen them before.
Yeah, those stealth ships.
And they are bad. They are some bad mamma jammas. Was it 4 stealth ships?
That attacked the Donager?
That attacked the Donnie. Was it 4 or 6?
I thought it might even be 3, but I don't remember.
No, it was only 1. It was just 1. One stealth ship that attacked the Donager and took it out. The flagship of the Martian Navy, the Pride of Mars.
I'm pretty sure there were more ships.
Well, I just realized this last night because when you get to one of the later episodes, you see the battle or you hear the battle from Julie's End. And it's just the ship. It's just the Anubis. The Anubis is what takes out the Donnie and the Cant.
Actually, I just watched that episode today because it's not actually, that ship does not take part on the attack on the Donnie.
You're actually right. They take out the Cant. I'm so sorry, guys. This is why I have an outline, and because my brain is.
All right, you're fired. How do you kick somebody off the stream again?
Oh man. I'm fired.
All right, you're back. I kicked you off for a hot second just to be a troll, but
okay. So a very small group of ships take out a massive warship. That's case closed.
Yeah, and like the whole time, even the captain of the Donager is treating it like it's no big deal.
Yeah, no big deal.
It's a person in a modern it's the captain of a modern aircraft carrier going, there's a couple of small destroyer class ships. We have nothing to fear.
Yeah.
But they had everything to fear. And what a beautiful performance by that bridge crew in their limited amount of screen time, because they're only in 2 episodes, the last one and this one, and they don't
very few lines.
But But you learn to love the Martians, despite the fact that they're a highly militarized society. You get to see that they're still human beings,
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. We really get a good look at the Martian way of thinking, because they have a different worldview than the people from Earth. Because everybody who is on Mars, everybody who is there with one purpose, one goal, one dream in mind, and that is to resurrect a dead planet and to make it habitable. Everyone works. Everyone has a job. Everyone contributes to the society. Everyone has mandatory, compulsory military service. You serve.
You have to.
Mars. And it contrasts very, very highly with the society that is on Earth, which is well overpopulated and doesn't have the resources really to support the people that are there. And unemployment is at 50%?
Yeah,
I think half the people live on basic.
Not only that it's not that they don't want to work. There just isn't work for them to have unless there
is no job to be had. You're right.
There's no job to be had, and they don't. You don't even get the chance at an education to get a job to better yourself. So it's not an ideal situation either way. So
I'm about to say to Betsy, I felt a lot more intimidated than I did a few minutes ago.
I put you back on the side, man. I could see you going, uh-oh.
Yeah, and Martians really have a low opinion of the average Earther.
Well, and rightly so. And Earthers have bad opinions of Martians. If you're I won't say rightly so. If you're thinking about the stereotypes,
right.
If you're thinking about the
stereotypes, the stereotypes. Most people, or most of the rest of the solar system, considers Earth to be takers.
Yeah. And there's truth to that, but not necessarily to the extent. And again, it's a lot of it comes down to the powerful people, the Jules Pierre Maos, if you will, of the system, that are getting rich off of
the backs of other people's suffering,
especially belters.
Especially the belters. Yeah.
Okay, I'm gonna look at our CQB.
Oh, John, here's your scene.
Yeah.
CQB, go to John.
It's probably my favorite exchange of the entire series, which is, hey, Aziz.
Hi, Aziz.
Hi,
Aziz. I was just going to type it, but they said it, so I said it too.
I can't believe I'm speaking on a stream that Aziz is watching. It was
a little weird the first time he popped into my stream. I was like, oh, hi. But yeah, he comes on a semi-regular now.
anyway, it's probably my favorite exchange of the whole series, where it's the end of the episode. They get on the ship, and Alex is like, "I don't know if I'm in any condition. Get us out of here!" And he's like, "You got it.
You got it."
I remember, especially the second time I watched it, I just laughed out loud at that part, and it was great.
And that's the scene where I think you pretty much fall in love with Alex, right?
Yeah.
Because Alex gets promoted to his dream job, like on the hot seat, on the fly.
Yeah. And what a ship. The Tachi, as we'll call it the Tachi until it's officially it's the Tachi for now. What a ship, state-of-the-art Martian gun frigate.
Everything.
And
all wrapped up with a sweet ass coffee machine.
And you don't realize it at this time in the series yet, but like any good sci-fi, a ship is a character in its own right. The way the Millennium Falcon is, the way Serenity is.
It's the fifth crew member.
Yeah, it's to the point of like you have to take care of her, and Alex ends up talking to her a little bit more later on.
Yeah.
It's good stuff, man. It's good stuff. I really do like the Tachi, or that class of ship, whatever it is.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
But I was telling Nessie earlier, I think this was when you stepped out, Stephen, that was before we started broadcasting, that aside from Miller, Alex is probably, my favorite character,
Great character.
Oh,
yeah, he's just this guy who seems like he's sort of along for the ride, and and finds some purpose, but he's just like, I almost consider him like, he's not as negative, purposely negative, but he does kind of feel like the Dolores Ed of the crew, in that he's just saying these offhanded, funny statements, and it's just, I love him. He's great.
I also love, so Alex is from Mariner Valley, which was settled by Indians, like people from India, people from Texas, and I think
people from China.
China. Okay.
So
but like
Eastern culture with a Western drawl.
Right. So he clearly is of Indian descent, but and I am a native Texan, and I'm like, that dude is pulling off that Texas accent. I'm telling you. And he doesn't lay it on super thick. He is an urban Texan accent. It's really good. And I love that. That's just another layer of world building. Like, they don't ever really explain it, I guess in the books they kind of do, but
yes, they do in the books.
But like in the show, they're just like, people are people, and it's been a couple of 100 years, and cultures have been mixing together for a couple of additional centuries now. So of course you're going to have huge crossover, and
melting pot.
Yeah.
Space is the biggest melting pot of all. So it's just, the best and brightest went to Mars and made a society.
CQB, I think, is the episode that convinced me I was going to really like this show.
Yeah.
Yeah, I should clarify, because I want to have something to talk about later on, that this was the episode that not necessarily made me fall in love with the show, but it was the one that where I said, okay, I'm on board.
Right.
This is really interesting and exciting, and I get it now, so I'm going to keep watching.
Yeah. Mom points out that I have an aunt who is 100% Thai, adopted, who sounds like a non-urban Texan.
Awesome. That is awesome. All right. So CQB, the guys make it out of the Donninger. Another ship goes up, and they're the only survivors again.
I didn't think we could lose. Just that the way she delivered that line, I gave myself goosebumps thinking about it.
Yeah.
Her face, the face of her executive officer in that moment, because they both know what they have to do, and it's so good. Oh, so good.
You don't know, you don't even remember their names, but they're
No.
like, I love every one of them.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm.
These self-sacrificing people who are just, the information is more vital to get off the ship than to try to save the ship.
Right.
Yeah.
And willing to sacrifice everyone else there to stop a war. The most militarized society in the system.
And they're not really after war.
And they're a defense force, but it's because they perceive Earth as being aggressor and, counter aggression. And, that's a whole other, the politics of the Expanse would be its own whole stream, so
right.
Earth and Mars had already
had Earth and Mars had already had their Cuban Missile Crisis, which the treaty for that set their terraforming efforts back not just 50 years, but 50 years and 50 more.
Mm-hmm.
So nobody who's alive now on Mars is ever going to see the fruits of their labor. They're not going to see it.
Yep.
So it's all for the future. So,
but they are still a society willing to build towards that future, still motivated to do so. Okay, we need to keep moving. We're not halfway through this. We're not halfway through the list of episodes yet, and we're almost halfway through the stream.
All right, the next episode, back to the butcher. Holden and company get a cold call.
Right. Dear sir or ma'am, if you would like to come to Tycho Station,
please press 1.
Right.
Okay, this is the episode which is otherwise known as the episode in which John feels like a complete idiot for missing one crucial piece of information, and that was the little subtitle that says like 11 years ago or whatever.
Right.
First time watching this episode, I thought all of this stuff was happening at the exact same time as everything else, and it really confused me.
Yeah, that would be rather confusing.
Yeah.
But that 10 years makes a huge difference.
Yeah, and it influenced the way I saw Fred Johnson throughout the rest of the season. And so that was yet another case where second viewing was completely different for me, and I had a completely different, maybe not completely different, but a modified take on his character. Which I was grateful for.
I kind of love the Fred Johnson character as sort of an inverse parallel to Anderson Dawes in a lot of ways.
Right.
Absolutely. Because he was Anderson Dawes has always been a sort of like, do what I think I have to do for the greater good, if you will.
Right.
Whereas Anderson Dawes was very much a like, I follow orders because there are people making decisions that have information that I don't. And he trusted those people. And what happened at Anderson Station. Right. Is it Anderson Station?
What, Stephen? That the butcher happened? The butcher? Yeah. Yes. Anderson Station. The butcher at Anderson Station.
I said Anderson Dawes and then Anderson Station. So I'm like, am I right here? Am I getting confused? Okay. Yeah. But that is like, to see someone who was such a sort of like a party man, if you will, a party guy, a by the book, yes man, a G man, however you want to put it, someone who adhered to that structure, Colonel Fred Johnson.
Yeah, highly respected, highly decorated.
Right. And to see him turn so completely from that, like he had the scales lifted from his eyes, and he saw what he was really dealing with, the fact that that he was just a tool in a political game, and he was, he has removed himself from being anyone's pawn ever again, And
again, this goes back to what I was saying, where I had kind of angry at myself for not paying close enough attention, because on that first viewing, I assumed that him being a party to, blowing up that station was happening concurrently
Right.
with the rest of the story. So I'm like, oh, I can't trust a word this guy says because he's a bad dude. And then, which made him a complex character, but not necessarily complex in the way that I was comfortable with.
Right.
And so second viewing, I was like, okay, wow, this is completely different. And, and
made a lot more sense.
This is a guy who has sort of seen the error of his ways and is even haunted by his past actions. And, and so, but yeah, he's a great character.
I couldn't agree more. Couldn't agree more. He's not my favorite, that not to say that I dislike him at all. I like him actually quite a lot. And it's because of his moral, ethical complexity. He's still willing to get his hands dirty, like
right in with the rest of them.
He kind of shakes down that Mormon right there. He's like, you just never know. And it's I don't know. I do love it. Also a chaotic good character.
Very much so. He
will do what he thinks is right, even if he has to kill everybody in the room to make it happen.
Maybe not everybody.
You know what I mean, though. You know what I mean.
Right. Yeah. Hopefully only one to make the point, and the rest will kind of get the picture.
Yeah. No spoilers. Right. Okay, that's season 2, I think. Never mind. Is it season 2? The tin cans?
I think anything that might be season 2, you guys should steer clear.
All right.
Yeah, that's season 2. We'll get to the FedEx later.
Yeah, FedEx. That's it.
FedEx.
Okay. So, this is also the one where we get the Rocinante, which is another nod to Don Quixote. The Rocinante being the name of his horse.
Right.
And I don't remember exactly what Rocinante means, but Anna, you're a Spanish speaker, and I also saw I think Amanda speaks pretty good Spanish. If the Disputed Lands is still here, can somebody tell me like a translation for Rocinante? That'd be cool. Well, it takes a few seconds for chat to catch up, but yeah, yet another, and there will be further nods to to Don Quixote as we continue to move through the season.
And we'll find out why.
Yeah, I also love that the first name suggested was the Screaming Firehawk. And I'm like, that's a good old boy right there. We're gonna ride in the Screaming Firehawk.
Yeehaw!
But the fans have taken that and made it their own. So I don't know. You may not realize this yet.
No, I didn't.
Like the fandom refers to themselves as the Screaming Firehawks.
Well, did it come down between that and donkey balls?
John, you should get that on a shirt.
Yeah. That's fantastic.
Yeah. So the Rosie is born, Rocinante.
Right.
Let's see. I think
and the meeting between Fred Johnson and Holden and Amos in that hallway when they first meet him, that is such good like dialogue between them. Like they can't hardly trust each other, but they have to, and they have to figure out how to, while realizing that they can't.
Mm-hmm.
Right. It's kind of a leap of faith. It really is a leap of faith on everyone's part to for the guys to go to Tachi Station, which I wonder, is that like Tashi Station? Was that a play? Everybody wants to go to Tashi Station and meet Fred. And at first they were very reluctant. The first vote was a no, if I recall correctly. Everybody was like, no, I don't trust him. Especially Naomi. Naomi has very much reservations about Fred Johnson and his involvement with the OPA.
And you really had to put that up, Stephen.
Yeah. Well, somebody is saying hi to you.
I'm still working through being self-conscious.
Yeah.
We love you, buddy. We love you. I'm glad you're here.
Especially.
Hey, if I didn't mess with you, you wouldn't feel like you're really my friend anyway. You'd feel like you treat me different than his other friends.
Yeah. This was also the episode, I think, that Holden falls in love.
I think you're right.
With the coffee machine.
Yeah, I think you're right. Well, I'm in love with my coffee machine. Hold on while we make out real quick. Okay, that's not the coffee machine. That's the byproduct, but you know what I mean.
When all coffee drinkers out there know what we're talking about. You cannot run a military ship, you cannot run an office, you can't run a business, you can't run a hospital, you can't run a household if you don't have your coffee.
You got it right. Real talk, coffee is the second most traded commodity in the world behind oil.
So is this the episode that ends with them taking off again? I'm trying to remember. I don't think they leave. I think they end the episode still on Tachi Stage or Taiko Station. All right. Well, we were talking about the coffee. It's just because I love that montage at whether it's this one or at the end of the next episode. That was one of the moments where the musical score really stuck out to me. Where they're all getting sort of finding their place on the ship and. And it's just sort of like this moment that sort of, they're not doing stuff together, but they're bonding sort of with the ship and as a crew. And
they're finding their place.
Yeah.
By the way, Ana Iglesias says that Rocinante means like blooming or flowering or something like that.
Oh, okay.
Which is cool. Cool. Thank you, Anna.
Yeah. Like a flower opening, I guess. Okay. All right. Moving on. Okay.
Which could have meaning even for the ship itself. Like it is the sort of like blooming of this crew as like the main unit of the show. They're sort of flowering and growing out from here.
Right.
Cool.
Good point. Good point, Stephen. So, okay. Next episode is the Rock Bottom. Rock Bottom.
Which for season 1 it kind of is. Well, for Miller it is. He's been tracking Julie and he's been putting pieces together and he's been having run-ins with the OPA and we haven't talked a whole lot about Miller's stuff, but like at this is the point where he goes a step too far for his bosses and they're just like, nope, you're done.
Yeah, that's where he realizes just how deep the OPA's tentacles have gotten into Ceres Station, not just as the criminal element, but actually they own the police force.
That was what was really infuriating to me about that. It's not even that that his captain or whatever has been bought out, because that's sort of a staple of
corrupt police.
Sort of corrupt police forces and all that. You expect to see that kind of thing, but it's the line, I'm tired of arguing with a child. It's so infuriating. It's like, don't act like you're just part of the system and it's just a-okay to be doing what you're doing. It's
right.
It just, I remember feeling my blood boil at that line, but yeah, go ahead. Sorry.
Oh, it's okay. I didn't mean to talk over you, John. Actually, I have read the books, which, these guys haven't, but in the books, the OPA actually does take over Ceres, lock, stock, and barrel. From that point on, Ceres is under the control of the OPA, and they use it as like their capital, so to speak, capital of the belt, in their pseudo government that is forming. So that whole police takeover was just step one of taking over the entire station when the crisis hits.
I do want to address something. Ramble Ron in the chat says, on the show, they say it means workhorse. They do say it means Rocinante means workhorse, but
Or yeah,
if you speak Spanish, it doesn't mean workhorse, but it is referring to the old. It was the name that Don Quixote gave his horse, which was an old plow horse.
right. Once a workhorse.
Just 1 minute. I did act a touch defensive at the last comment, but I did want to say thank you to Leaf Underhill, because he is commenting that I have a good shaped head. Without hair. So
she.
Oh, she. Sorry.
She. Leaf Underhill, mother of tribbles.
My apologies.
That's all right.
All right. So Miller gets fired. Literally hits rock bottom.
Yeah, and the thing is, it might be at this point that he's starting to really kind of fall for Julie Mao, which for me was I had a huge disconnect with Miller at first. I did not really get him early on in the season. I'm just who is this? And it might be that I felt like he was really inconsistent character-wise from one episode to the next, and I'm not the only person who said that.
Right.
But it could just be the man's got a lot of layers, and we're seeing different slices of him at different times, and
he's like a parfait.
Yeah, like a parfait. Of course, that's where you go. Ogres are not like parfaits.
I think this is the point where I can unleash and talk about my Miller feelings.
Do it,
John.
It is true that it's kind of hard to get a lock on what he's feeling, or even who he is in the first couple episodes. And in truth, when Dawes says you're in love with Julie Mao, I didn't necessarily buy that. I was like, no, you're off the mark there. And in truth, I don't think he is necessarily in love with her.
I can't be.
Yeah, I think he may be in love with the idea of her.
Yeah, of Julie.
And what maybe she represents for him. And that's why it's doubly heartbreaking. And I'll hold off on this for now, but it's doubly heartbreaking when the end of episode 8 happens, because that's just as much about him losing a piece of himself. But yeah, it's just really interesting, because this is a guy who has seemingly given up on believing in things, or has sort of devolved into a cynicism, and this is just a light that he's pulled towards, and and it's just, as the season went on, he became more and more fascinating for me for that exact reason.
Yeah.
I can see that.
Yeah, and I'm thinking in the scene, every time he goes in Julie's apartment, there's the bird in the window. The bird in the window. And to me, his fascination with Julie and what she represents is kind of like that bird in the window that just comes up, and it's just this thing that's out of place. It really shouldn't be there, but it's beautiful, and he's drawn to it. So maybe that's what the bird is. Otherwise, why have a bird?
Twofold reason. Actually, one of the reasons I love the bird is a really subtle way to demonstrate the lower gravity.
Right.
I actually thought it was a masterfully done thing. Of course, the gravity is different on Ceres. It has to be by necessity. And I thought that, but it also includes a bird is free. It's a free spirit. It's not controlled. It's, a bird as a symbol can have a lot of meanings. Nessie, I know you do a lot of looking at symbolism. And I think it's a great symbol for Julie, because she couldn't be held down. She couldn't be tied down by anyone.
Right. And she wouldn't be. She would not be. She was always going to fly free. And her ship, her racer, the Razorback, was her bird. Mm-hmm. And when she was in the Razorback, she was free. She was free of rules and restrictions. just
Right
her
on.
universe. So Julie is as that bird, that spirit is pretty spot on, I think.
Mm-hmm.
All right, cool.
And I
Well,
love
before we move on to the next one, we've been going for about an hour, and so mid-roll break. First thing I'm going to do is make sure that I give a shout out to the patrons and specifically to ridiculous Ed Tollett, who just popped in from work. Hi, Sean. Glad you made it, buddy. Sean is a patron of the tier that gets him a shout out. So ridiculous Ed, thanks a lot, man. Your support is appreciated as always. I will say, if you're enjoying this and you're new here, please subscribe. We'll be continuing Expanse talk, and I do a lot of other stuff on the channel too, including a series called I Know That Nerd, probably my most popular series. But if you're here for Expanse content, I've seen a couple of names I don't 100% recognize today, a couple of new faces. Subscribe, and we'll be continuing about every 2 weeks to do more Expanse content. So with that being said, 2 weeks from now, we will be covering season 2.
Season 2, yes.
2 weeks after that, we'll be covering season 3. Fingers crossed.
Fingers crossed.
Hopefully 2 weeks after that, we'll be doing like a run up to season 4, and that should be like the last weekend before season 4 comes out. And then after the season comes out, I'm not sure in what order or how much but something about season 4 will come out on this channel as well. And in those in-between times, I'm looking at doing possibly an Avatar: The Last Airbender stream where we just talk about Avatar: The Last Airbender for a couple hours because I love that show. And got some I Know That Nerds coming up. Next week, I Know That Nerd, Gray Area. Was supposed to be on a few weeks ago. She had to bow out because of scheduling conflict, but she'll be back. So next weekend is Gray, and Gray's awesome, sassy lady. Met her at Con of Thrones this year, and she is cool. So looking forward to having a good conversation with her. So subscribe, hit the like if you would. Links for my guests are in the description. So if you want to follow John or Nessie on Twitter, all of their pertinent stuff for at least Twitter, which is where I know them from, are in the description. And my Patreon is also down there. I do giveaways to my patrons at the end of the month. So, I don't know what I'm giving away this month yet, but something. So if you want to win, a thing.
If I can be completely shameless here for a second, I'd like to mention that I'm 2 followers away on Twitter from having 100 followers. So
go follow John. John is an awesome guy. Now, John, I haven't known you that long, only a few months, like since Con of Thrones.
Or shortly after.
Shortly after, we started interacting on Twitter, and we hit it off pretty well, I think, which is why you're here. I don't invite people I don't like,
Do you know at the time coming out of Con of Thrones, I mean, and I was not the person who particularly cared about any of this type of stuff because I didn't really use Twitter that much, but I think I had like 25 to 30 followers that were just incidentally picked up over time from various different things. Right. So it's honestly been really bizarre for me to have gotten so many new friends over social media, and it's it's just been sort of more than I ever expected.
Right. Well, I bet you might have 100 followers by the end of the stream. I bet you might. Leaf says, if I Twittered, I'd follow you, John. Okay, next stream, convincing Leaf to join Twitter so she can be in all the fun shenanigans. Yep. You're missing me posting pictures of where I hide skulls in my house for Halloween. So, but if you were on Twitter, you could get all those really awesome pictures.
It's worth it just for that.
And Nessie's takes on everything is this lady is smart, let me tell you. So, and John's not bad either for a white guy. All right, where were we?
John's pretty cool.
Yeah.
I don't think you can get any whiter than me.
My mother got her DNA tested. My mother got her DNA tested. 100% of her DNA comes from either Northern Europe, Western Europe, or Scandinavia. And like not even 0.01% African or Ashkenazi Jewish or any of that. Crazy. I'm like, you're the whitest person I've ever met. Of course, that makes me at least half white. But all right, moving on.
All right.
Windmills, episode 7.
Yes, here's another Don Quixote.
Yep. Another Don Quixote reference.
Yeah. I think your mom had a pretty interesting idea as to what the windmills represented.
Yeah, she said something like she sees like the uniting humanity as the windmill that Miller is jousting against.
Miller or the crew.
I'm sorry, not Miller. Holden.
Yeah. Well, that was was what Don Quixote was battling. I guess the forces of evil were jousting at windmills. So that's an interesting one.
I mean, again, this episode, if I'm looking at your notes,
right.
This is the one where Sharla meets Holden's mom.
Okay.
Yes.
Real quick. I can officially update. If I can on this, well, you can't see, but I have 100 followers. Yay!
Yay!
Yeah, after already.
Now you have to do a dance, John. You have to do the happy dance.
Oh, if any of you have seen Angel, I'll do the dance of joy.
You can't see it, but my legs are going crazy right now.
Dance of joy.
Yeah,
that's a good one. All right, yeah. Windmill.
I know the reference precisely. The Deathwalk clan.
Yeah.
On Pylea. Yes, I know exactly.
If you want me to like not shut up for the entire 2 hours, we'll do a stream on Angel because I seriously, it's one of those shows that I just have endless things that I love about it.
It's coming eventually, probably next year, but yes, that stream is coming, the Angel stream.
Yeah.
Okay. So
Mom, Wheezy is asking if you also lived in Thousand Oaks. No, Wheezy, my dad lived in Thousand Oaks, and that's when I lived there. My mom was in Texas at that time.
Okay, so Sharla and Holden's mom, the big showdown at the ranch.
And Holden's mom, I don't know the actress's name, but I've seen her in lots of stuff. But that woman can still like knowing what I know about Christian Sharla and like being able to go toe to toe with her. I'm like, mad respect, woman, mad respect.
Oh yeah. She had her number. They had each other's number, and I think the encounter was probably like the immovable object and the irresistible force. You know,
but like the way they came to understand each other, so good,
so good. And Sharla opening up about her past and her pain and her son. And that just made her so much more real for me. Because
I think this was the episode where like I just sort of gave myself over to, loving her as a character, just because it breaks your heart. And it's that moment after their conversation when she's walking away and then, she finds out that they're gonna, at least try to take Holden out, and she looks back at the mother, and it's just like it kills me. It's beautiful and it's horrible.
Yeah. But you get some of Holden's backstory about how he grew up, and he had a very unconventional upbringing out on his family actually owned land that they fought tooth and nail to keep. on Earth, which is almost unheard of at this stage, where just space is at such a premium, and to have was it 15? I don't know how many acres it was, but just to have own any acreage, to own any just a freestanding home is almost unbelievable. And he was they had him for a tax break.
Right. Well, for a tax break, and so be like, oh, we got a kid, we're all grandfathered into it now.
Right. So, I mean, that would have been a horrible thing to realize growing up, but it wasn't. I mean, just to have that in your backstory, like you were kind of born to keep this land here, and that just tied him inextricably to that little piece of land growing up.
Which I think also leads to his sort of like Messiah complex that he has, because he was raised believing that he was born with this glorious purpose.
Purpose. Yes, very much so. That he was brought here. That he was an intentional birth.
Right.
He had all these responsibilities that would have been placed on him. Just from the moment he was conceived.
Yeah.
I mean, that's a big burden for a kid.
Oh yeah, I mean, again, it shapes his entire character into the modern day with him.
Right.
So
they had books.
I think this is the episode. Obviously, Sharla really kicked up a notch for me on this, and the way that the crew decided that they still had to, they had to go to Eros, and they were preparing for what they were having to do. On the case trying to get to Julie Mao, like another like really big time character development episode, not super heavy on the action, but I think at this point I had been sold enough that I was like, oh, I've just eaten it up,
Right. Yeah. Give me the juice.
Right.
Every episode, just some more juice.
Give me the juice. Anything else to say about Windmills?
No, just that. Yeah, that's pretty much it. Everybody's heading to Eros, and is that the Donkey Balls episode, John?
God, that's great.
It is the Donkey Balls episode, isn't
Donkey
it?
Balls.
Right.
And this just, again, it's why I love Alex so much. It's like after, they do all, they've got the, correct, keywords, they said, and then he just says, it's like a pair of donkey balls.
Yeah.
And
okay. So do you remember what the words are? I only remember the first one is is ubiquitous.
Ubiquitous.
The way he looks at
he's like,
he's like
they were three words that just like, my God, I know what ubiquitous means, but I might not even know what those other two words are.
If anybody in the chat knows what those other two words, drop them in, that would be great.
Words.
Give us
with
the word.
With a couple of donkey balls.
And donkey balls. Because that was all I took away from it. But yeah, I mean, they're just trying to figure out how not to be boarded by these the Martian Navy, and
God. And it's the spy that's literally helping them, the spy that they picked up from Tycho Station.
Right. And it's like, hey, look in your protocols. Don't you need to look in the protocols? They should be in there. And they're like, what protocols? Yeah. And then Alex is like, oh yeah, I remember this time back in the Navy, with that draw. And it's like, get on with it, man. At the end of it, oh yeah, donkey balls.
This was an instance where my kind of, playing catch up on a lot of stuff helped on the first viewing, because I did not recognize this guy from the bar earlier on when he's watching Naomi and Holden. And so as far as I knew, this was just some poor schmuck, and so I was much more sort of, guessing about his character than I might have been otherwise if I'd been paying closer attention.
Right.
Okay, I'm going to attempt the name Pedar Ruan. I don't know if you're, or I'm just going to call you Groundskeeper Willie because that's your picture. But yes, Mendalocious and Polyglottal. Yep, that's it. Those are the words.
God.
Good call. I don't think I know you, Pedar, but a welcome addition. I've seen you've been contributing to the chat, this stream, so I want to welcome you to the channel. We have a lot of fun here every week. So
yeah, and I'm not going to attempt to pronounce his name. I apologize, but he also mentions Amos in this episode.
Yes, and the Amos Holden exchange.
Oh God,
it's just the best, man.
Yeah. And again, I was not a big Amos fan on my first viewing, so I was kind of like, this bastard is just like, he's just ready to take everybody down, and Holden's, doing the right thing here because, I'm probably as much of a Boy Scout as Holden is. So, so that's sort of my perspective. But then on second viewing, it's like, he's just doing what he feels needs to be done. And, he's a great character.
He is. He's fascinating. Like, no, if they come in here, I'm going to kill them because that's what I feel like I have to do. If you feel like you have to kill me, that's okay. Kill me.
Yeah.
But like, I'm not backing down. And then they finally get the words out and they leave, and you're like, okay, cool, on with life, like it never happened.
And you know what made this made me feel sort of better about his actions, or what he was ready to take action on in this episode, is what follows in episode 8 when they go into the building to find Julie, and they're going through the hallway, and one of the doors opens up, and Alex points his gun at this older guy, and Amos takes his hand and lowers the gun. He's not just about wasting everybody.
No, he's not.
He's about doing what he feels needs to be done, but he's not just wanting to kill everybody.
It always comes down to one word with Amos: survival. Period.
Always have.
And like, he talks. Is this the episode where he talks about the churn?
Yeah. Yes, it is.
Yeah.
With Spy, he talks about, buddy, you're just caught up in the churn.
Yeah, and there is for those of you, we won't go into it, but there is an excellent short story in the Expanse universe called The Churn, which is Amos's backstory. Read it. Take 2.5 hours to listen to it on Audible. It's not that long. It's fantastic, and it will make you really understand Amos in a way you haven't yet. And it's not really spoilery because it's a prequel story. It's backstory. But yeah, the churn, when the rules of the game changes, and you got to figure out what you have to do
to survive.
Because
that's the name of the game.
Oh, see, Pedar. I'm just going to call you Pedar. I don't know if that's even close to right, but yeah, you agree. The Churn is a great little novella. I agree.
Absolutely. It's a must read for anybody who's into the Expanse. It is a must read. Mm-hmm. If you don't read anything else, if you're just want to watch the show and enjoy it, that's fine. But if you get a chance, it's like Steven said, it's a quick read or listen, and it's
so good. So good.
So good.
And I'm like, yeah. Anyway, we need to keep moving. We're already an hour and a half in. I tried not to go over 2 hours, so we're probably going to go over 2 hours a little bit today. Mm-hmm. Yeah. But let's keep moving on.
We're trying.
Episode 8, Salvage.
This is the episode where I fell in love with this show. Full on.
Okay, tell us about it.
There's no point in dancing around. Let's just go to the end of the episode.
Cut to it, man.
That's it. First of all, the shootout, and when Miller comes in, and it's the meeting of the two worlds, basically. I was like, yes, and it's, you want these characters to be, and you know instantly that things are going to be rocky between Miller and Holden. They're just not the same type of people.
Yeah.
But of course, and we can talk some more about that. But really, the thing that I've told you guys how I feel about Miller when he walks into that bathroom and sees Julie. It's like my heart broke for him.
Mm-hmm.
It's like the most gut wrenching thing. And because it takes you off guard, because I wasn't expecting that, because they, in the sort of prologue of the season, before the opening credits of the first episode, they neglect to show you the bit where Julie gets some of the substance on her hands, so you have no idea that she's might be infected, or
you just gets
whatever.
out.
Yeah, and it just happens. It's revealed like that, and it's just the look on his face. It's just heartbreaking. And so I was, if I hadn't been emotionally, sucked in by the show before that, this definitely did it.
Yeah, I think the one that breaks John's heart, the episode, it was rough. And we're introduced to the blue goo, which is like one of the other major characters in the series.
It's the proverbial White Walker.
Yeah, right. It is, in a way.
Right. In its fashion. Yeah.
Big scary thing.
It's
the big scary thing. Yeah.
It is the potential existential threat.
Yeah, and what freaks me out is you don't really find out anything about it, except that they've been doing something with it.
Yeah, you will find out more in coming seasons, John. Like you will find out more about it, but like everything you find out about it is it's the type of thing where like, oh, you answered that question. I have 3 follow-up questions. And then each of those questions gives you 3 new follow-up questions. So it's just like through 3 seasons, I'm like, I know what it is and where it comes from, but like I don't really know where it is or what it is or where it comes from.
So it's the lost method of mysteries.
Right. Well, we know that they found it on Phoebe Station. We do know that unequivocally. Right. That was the whole point of the exercise, so to speak. Somebody and the joint effort between Earth and Mars, and Earth being Protogen, which, remember that name, it's going to come back, had this research station on an ice moon, Phoebe, which we find out is not all it seems. So yeah, and then they are transporting samples of it, and that's how Julie gets involved. Is all about the cover up and what's going on with Phoebe Station. So that's there. Okay. So that's the goo.
Yeah, the blue goo. I also want to talk about the gunfight in the hotel lobby, because I mean, look, I love the audio-visual medium for everything it can do for us, like the way you can catch the subtle changes on an actor's face to really understand their emotions in that point or in that moment. But it also lets us see like stuff you wouldn't want to be standing around to watch in real life. Stuff like this type of gunplay, and for a show that did not have a large budget, they did a really great job with this action sequence particularly, and even doing some character building through the action sequence, like Miller or not Miller, Holden and Alex and Naomi, they were almost more trouble than they were worth in that. But
you can tell that's not something that they've ever done before. Like, which end is the deadly end? Which end do I use not to shoot my foot off?
Right. But Amos, like
in a gunfight. So,
Amos knew it was going to happen before it happened.
Yes.
And this is one of those moments where, as sort of dubious as Amos's sort of sanity may be, he's the guy you want in this type of situation. He's right. He's ready for it, and he knows it's coming.
Yep, and like didn't not going to lose sleep over it tonight either. But wasn't trying to cause pain. Again, all comes down to survival. And his radar went off, and he's like, "Oh, this is dangerous." And he, again, as Pedar says, the zipper goes down. He's ready. Like
he's ready for whatever.
Right, which is just further like another. That's a layer of him that never fully goes away.
No,
like Amos, fully willing to use violence no matter what, and sometimes. Violence is his hammer, and lots of problems look like nails to him. Which is one of the reasons that the Amos Naomi relationship is so great, because she keeps him morally centered.
Right. I think she's kind of like everyone's guiding star on the crew, as it as they kind of gel into a family, so to speak. Every family needs a mom, and just because she's the only female character of the crew, but because she has such compassion, such nurturing support that she gives to everyone. She gives of herself to everyone that she comes in contact with. She is.
We haven't had a lot of talk about Naomi yet.
I was just thinking we haven't spoken about her.
Other than being the first person in the room.
Real quick, I just when Pedar mentions Amos's smirk when Miller threatens Holden. I love that part because it's like it's like that Holden and Miller aren't really going to like each other, but you get the sense that actually Miller might be right up Amos's alley. He's like
they understand one another.
Oh, I can't wait for you to watch season 2, John. That's all I can say, because.
Well, there's something that happens at the end of the season that complicates that.
Yeah, very, very much.
Very much. So.
And it will be touched on in season 2.
Yeah, I thought it might.
Yeah, it's important. Very much important.
No, but let's talk about Naomi real quick, because
sure, say whatever you got to say.
That's horrible that we haven't even talked about her.
No, again, we're hitting the broad strokes. I haven't gotten to character based, and she was. Let's be honest, she is not a right around character the way Holden and Miller are.
Yeah,
she's not. But like she's every bit as awesome as Amos or Alex. People love who they love. I love you. You like Alex. I like Amos. But there's no hate for Naomi here. Although I feel like her most compelling stuff, the stuff that really sets her off as a character, is going to come in season 2 and 3.
It's coming.
Yeah,
and it's this season. It's toward the end of the season. You see what Naomi Nagata is all about.
Yeah, I can't remember. No. Season 2.
No,
the thing I'm thinking of is
the thing you're thinking of. Yeah, I'm talking about the tunnels.
Wait, just to interject real quick, just want to say goodbye to Jaded Redhead. She has to take off. Thanks for coming by.
Bye, Kelly.
Stay careful out there. You don't want to sail into a nor'easter. It's that time of year where the seas be dangerous this time of year, I'm told.
Oh, Stephen, it's nasty up here.
I'm sure it is.
Yeah, Kelly kind of lives in my neck of the woods, and
for those of you that don't know, Kelly Jaded Redhead is a sailor. Not maybe she was in the Navy, but like when I say sailor, I mean sail
with sails.
With sails on like tall ships or however you want to put it.
Yes.
Like the age of sail, pirate age, that type of sailing.
She knows a lot about boats.
Yeah, she's done some really great art pieces too, where she like makes sketches of boats or ships from a Game of Thrones. Really cool.
Awesome.
And it's funny because I popped in for a second to History of Westeros earlier today, and just in time to hear Aziz mistakenly call her J Dead Redhead, which is the exact same mistake I was making. So I'm glad to actually know the correct way to say it.
Understand it until she said it's Jaded Redhead. I didn't really fully understand how to read it either until she said it's Jaded Redhead without the A's, and I'm like, oh, yep, it sure is.
J Dead is her pirate name.
But
historic ship. That's a good way to put it, Leave. Historic ships. Anyway.
No, Naomi. So I have complicated feelings about Naomi because it's the fact that I think it's the fact that she sort of comes into conflict with Holden earlier on. So you get this kind of it's like it's conflict, but it's not really conflict because they have an understanding between them, but they're also sort of jostling for the same position amongst the crew. And the fact that it doesn't really, I think it didn't help her early on with me that Amos was super in her corner, because I'm like, well, this guy's a loose cannon, so he just has complete disregard for the guy who is actually, the highest ranking officer. And you don't just toss that out the window when things go to hell. And that's, there's an argument.
You're Amos, though.
You do.
There is an argument to be made. I will say that depends on the person, but she's great. She's a great character, and you see all these different sides of her as the show goes on. And
she's also the belter character that we know the best. Hi, Jess. Better late than never. Glad you made it. We're going to be wrapping up before too long, but I'm glad you made it for some of it.
She does represent the belters, the average belter.
And she also represents sort of like the heart of the team, like her relationship with Amos and her relationship with Holden is a big part of why those two don't kill each other in their, or why Amos doesn't kill Jim in his sleep.
We didn't make note of the part where, after Holden confesses that he's the one who, I'm
glad we cleared that up.
Where she says, I knew. It's a way of deflecting, Amos's anger off of Holden and taking some of it herself. He doesn't outright kill Holden in that moment, which, who knows, he may very well decide to do. Right.
Like,
spaced him and not met a minute's night of no sleep. So,
and the whole, she was right to be scared of you. Oh
yeah.
That one hurts my heart for Amos, even though, I don't know if it hurt him in that moment.
Yeah.
Although not when Holden said it to him, but when he realized that Naomi was scared of him.
Yeah.
That did hurt him.
That did hurt him. Yeah.
And you can tell. Wes Chatham's a great actor. To put that across, to be this sort of again, I don't know that he's crazy, but he's clearly
well, that's actually the moment where I'm a little scared of him, because it's because Naomi's his tether in a lot of ways. And to see the look on his face and his reaction at that point, it's like, okay, I'm worried about what he's going to do now.
Yeah. You don't see a lot of emotion pass across Amos's face. But when you do, buddy, look out, because something's getting ready to happen.
Yeah.
Yeah. So.
Okay. Okay.
All right.
Let's move on. See, episode 9, Critical Mass.
Critical Mass.
And this is the opening of this episode is everything I wanted, just because the whole show I'm like, we have to see more of Julie, right? And of course the way episode 8 ends, you're like, oh crap. And the fact we essentially get to, see, things from her perspective and get her story. And it's like, I kind of fold this right into sort of my emotional devastation at the end of episode 8, because the story that we get, showing her, and it's just like this slow march to her death, and the realization that she reached out to Dawes and he's not even responding to her. It's just like, it's so tragic and so horribly sad.
Yeah, we just fall in love with Julie this episode, because up until now she's just been kind of like this muse, this myth, this figment almost of the story, the ghost in the story. And then to find out, oh yeah, we're not ever going to meet Julie in real life, we're not going to know what makes her tick, and then to see her brought to life in the next episode, we see her passion, we see her heart, that we realize she's just not some spoiled ultra rich kid who wants to go out and play revolutionary in the belt. When it was talking about when she was with some of the OPA operators on, I don't even know where, there was a cesium mine, which cesium is not good stuff, guys. If you don't know anything about it, it's deadly, it's toxic, and it will kill you. And she's down there with the miners, with the people who are actually suffering right alongside them, and she has to take anti-cancer medications for the rest of her life.
Yeah, unfortunately, it looks like John dropped. We'll see if he comes back. I'll keep my eye out for him, y'all.
And she willingly sacrificed, she just willingly sacrificed her body, her soul, her health, her future.
Which, again, not a thing Anderson does himself. Okay, there you are. Okay, good.
Right. How much of that did you guys catch?
Nessie was talking, so
0. You were gone. Sorry.
Oh, shit.
Yeah.
Okay.
So yeah, about the last minute and a half, you've been a spinning circle.
All right, okay. Julie, Matt, go.
Okay, yeah. So it's I was in the middle of talking when I cut out, so I might repeat some stuff. Basically, the opening of episode 9 just kind of folds into the end of episode 8 emotionally for me, because it's this sort of long march to her death that she goes on, and the fact that it shows her reaching out to Dawes and he's not even responding to her. It's just like the most horribly tragic and upsetting thing. It's the fact that she's nothing but a pawn to him, and she dies alone, and it's just, it kills me.
Yeah, and again, Anderson will say, like, we all have to be willing to make that sacrifice. Well, everybody but you, man. Everybody but you.
Right.
And again, I love Anderson Dawes as a character, but like, he is such a clear demonstration of that charismatic leader who says all the right things, can whip people into a frenzy, but he took advantage of Julie's altruism and naivete.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
He's like, if I can get this girl to die for us, what a powerful political image her martyrdom will be.
Right. This girl, she's like the Patty Hearst of the Expanse universe.
Yeah, that's actually a really good way to put it.
Yeah, the daughter of the most powerful man in the system, the most powerful, has the most influence, money, unlimited money, funds, can do whatever, and she is joined the OPA. What a martyr for the cause she would be, Yeah, but nobody knows Julie's face.
Yeah.
But I know something else I wanted to mention, but we kind of left it behind. I know we shouldn't be backtracking at all.
It's fine. Talk about whatever, man. Bring it.
It's when Miller is on the ship heading to the station, and he's speaking with the Mormon, and it's that discussion that they have about, what if, you're going to be on this ship for 100 years, when if, you reach the end and you don't find what you're looking for, and the guy says, well, then we'll just know that, our search isn't over yet. And Miller says, are you guys there? You guys froze up.
Oh,
No, you're here. Now you're frozen a little bit.
Hello?
There you are. Can you?
The next time I'm going to do this out in my living room, I promise.
That's fine. You're here.
But and then Miller says, doesn't that scare the living shit out of you? And it's just setting up, him finding Julie, and that's the end, and that's him, hoping and praying that he's going to find, something, and now he has to, continue on, on his journey in a way that he didn't think he was going to have to. And
right.
So I just really loved that parallel.
And as somebody who's not particularly deeply religious myself, I thought the way they handled that scene to be really sublime. I thought they did a really great job of making me feel for and understand this highly religious person and where he was coming from and how he was very relatable in his viewpoint there. I appreciate that a great deal. And this show does that at least a couple more times before the end of season 3. There's a character you haven't met yet, John. A female religious person, pastor, who her character is very well written. As and again, as somebody who's not really particularly religious, when I find when you can write it in a way that still resonates with me, I appreciate that a great deal.
Yeah,
right. They did a really good job with her character. Very good. Yeah, and that was a really good point that you made, John, that he finds the end of his own journey exactly what he's asking the other guy. At the end of his journey to find Julie, he finds this dead husk of a planet, so to speak. And what do you do? Where do you go from there? You can't turn back. The guy's like, well, our journey's not over yet. We just have to keep going on.
Right.
And that is very much hits on Miller, very much hits on his story.
So here in this episode is also where it's at the end where they put some protomolecule in everybody and they dose all of Eros with high levels of radiation.
Right. And
which we've figured out at this point that protomolecule plus radiation equals really bad time for everyone involved.
Really bad stuff happens.
Yeah.
And this is where we to figure out that Protogen really, really sucks.
Yes.
They really suck.
Like, Julie Mao, your daughter's dead. Well, extract her blood and prepare to kill 100,000 people. We're doing this still.
Yeah. We're going for it. Yeah.
This was a part that actually confused me a little bit. Maybe you guys can clear this up, because they had other ships, but was the proto-molecule only on the one ship?
It was only on the Anubis.
Yes.
Okay. All right. Because that confused me. I was like, well, why don't they, if they have it on those other ships, then why did they need it from
the
her?
Anubis is the one that is the only stealth ship that ever visited Phoebe Station.
Okay.
So the Anubis hit Phoebe Station, stole the protomolecule, and then the protomolecule started spreading because they didn't realize what they actually had, Okay.
Right. Yeah.
Yeah.
So that they had the only.
I hate to come off as missing something obvious, but I just wanted that cleared up.
Yeah. Peodar brings up like Mao being willing to sacrifice his own daughter to do what he thinks is best for humanity. You're right. You know who else did that? A jerk named Stannis Baratheon. And nobody likes that guy either. Okay. Yeah. There's a couple of people out there.
There's people like who do.
Guy, but like, I promise you, they'll never be on my channel.
And that's
I'm kidding. If Brendan Beefish ever wants to come on, sir, I would be happy to have you. Mr. Hartline. It would be a pleasure.
Yeah, that's the whole, again, sacrificing someone else for your goals, for what you think is a worthy sacrifice, but it's someone else that's being sacrificed.
Right. Again, it comes back to we have to be willing to make sacrifices. When you talk about you making a sacrifice, it's not you having somebody you care about die. That's not the same. I'm sorry. It just doesn't. It's one of those things that gets me fired up, you know.
Right.
Because the people who are saying we need to make sacrifices are never the ones making the big sacrifice themselves.
Oh no.
Sorry. Angry at Anderson Dawes.
Jules was very comfortable on Earth, taking, board meetings and putting some flowers on a tree and going on with his ultra rich lifestyle.
Yep.
And he didn't seem very affected by the loss anyway.
Yeah. Anyway, let's move on to the very last episode of the season, Leviathan Wakes.
Oh, yeah.
Wherein the crew tries to get the hell out of Eros.
Right. I call it Meet the Vomit Zombies. Yeah, that's actually... Oh, are you sick, Stephen? Have you been infected?
I've been sick for 2 weeks, y'all. I'm getting better, but yeah, I've been not well for a couple of weeks now.
Yeah, I remember. So yeah, in the books, that's actually what they refer to them as vomit zombies, because they're Walking Dead people. They don't even know it. They've been infected by this horrible well, it's not a bacteria or anything. It's just the substance. They've been infected with this substance that is just going to make them sick and take them over and use them as they put it, meat for the machine to run this science experiment that Protogen wants to see. Let's just see what happens when we give it enough biomass to satisfy this protomolecule. Let's just see what it does. It's just 100,000 belters. Who cares?
Yeah.
If you guys could be careful, because some of this stuff is sounding like it wasn't obvious to me watching the finale, so I don't know if more is revealed about.
Back up.
It
Well, it is clear that Protogen extracted protomolecule from Julie Mao.
Mm-hmm.
Then you saw them giving inoculations to everybody. You saw the radiation. Mm-hmm. So I don't think it's that much. Maybe you didn't put it together, but I really don't think it's a spoiler to say that they fed it the people of Eros.
Yeah. I get that. I have some thoughts and theories on, what it's, what the substance does sort of after the fact. And I just want to make sure that I don't know about anything definitively prematurely.
We're trying not to spoil you, man. Trying.
Well, you saw what happened to Julie. You saw what happened to the crew of the Anubis and the reactor core. You saw those kind of shapes oozing around, and there's like it's alive, and it's got the bodies of the dead adhering to it as part of it. So it was consuming the bodies.
So, so the guy that was the spy on the Rocinante that was like feeding information back to Christian, I believe.
It was supposed to be Christian, but I think it turned out to be
well, anyway, he's there at the end and something like reaches out and grabs him, doesn't it? Yeah. So like
one of the final scenes.
Something is going on with protomolecule that is unpleasant.
Yeah, it's kind of freaked me out. And then we're left hanging also with something's going on with Julie at the end, because don't we see like some kind of energy lasers doing?
Yeah, they're feeding it. They're feeding
it. Yeah, and I'm like, oh, wait a second, what's that? And they don't really
they don't
tell you what that's about. So,
but you know, and I don't know that it's ever explained, but like, I'm glad you're paying attention.
Yeah, I missed that on the first one. I was like, what? Oh, yeah.
Yes, Jess, so far, John has only seen season 1, just finished it earlier this week, but he's watching as we do the reviews, and I'm really happy to have someone who has that sort of like unspoiled while we're going through these reviews. It's fun. It's good.
Well, it's great. It was the perfect excuse for me to sort of, take it season by season, because normally when I'm catching up on a show after it's aired, I just, it's so easy to just binge watch the entire thing really quick. But this has given me the experience of kind of breaking it down season by season as I watch. Mm-hmm. And so I'm really happy. And I'm glad we're doing season 2 in 2 weeks, because that way I can go ahead and watch season 2, and I'll stop there as well.
Right. And it's
so we can do it that way.
It's enough time that like, it's plenty of time to watch it, but also not so long that you're going to be like, I can't wait for season 3. I can't wait for season 3. You're going to pace yourself a little bit, maybe watch it twice also. And there are 13 episodes in season 2, so 3 more than season 1 had.
Yeah.
So
John, a little parallel here. You're getting your Expanse season watch kind of like I did my Game of Thrones watch, because I was one of those people that never watched the show until season 8 was announced, and I was like, okay, maybe I should just give this thing a watch just to see what all the fuss is about.
You were a bookie first, right?
I was a bookie first. I was going to watch the show, and it was like, other things happened, and I never did. And then I found the books, and of course the books spoil you for everything, because they're so much better than, you're like, oh, the books are so much better than the whatever. So I just kind of put it on the back burner, and then, all my friends are all excited about season 8, and I'm like, I got a couple of spare weeks. I can go ahead and watch this. And I did it in like this marathon view session. I had it, set it where I could watch 2 episodes, 3 episodes after I got home from work every night. And right on up through season 8, which I was planned it and got it right on through to start season 8. And so I know what you're talking about, John. I kind of like fed it to myself, like in those little spoonfuls like that everything just made perfect sense.
I'm, for one, and just super glad you have that perspective, because it's like, I've seen the whole thing, the TV show twice. I've seen all the seasons at least twice. Certain parts I've seen more than others, especially some certain scenes from later seasons. Nessie's read the books and seen the show, and then you were like brand new to the show. So we have 3 different perspectives, and I value that very highly.
I would actually be taking on the books sooner rather than later, if not for the fact that I already have like 1 billion books that I still need to get to. So I think for now I'm happy with just the TV show. I'm doing the same thing with another show I love is Outlander. And the plan was for me to tackle those books. But again, I've got so much to read. And so I'm just kind of following along with the show for now, which in a way is good. It's a different experience from what I had with Game of Thrones, where I knew the books before they even announced the show, or at least the first couple books. And so I like, kind of diving into this without having all that extra information. I can just focus on what the show's doing.
Right. That's part of the reason, like, I kind of want to read the books, but I don't want to read ahead of where the show is.
I stopped where the show stopped. So okay. I have nothing going into season 4. Nothing.
Y'all, I will say this. We are at the 2-hour mark. let's make sure we're talking about Leviathan Wakes
Yes,
or the Expanse in general. I'm going to need to cut this off before too much longer. I drink 20 ounces of coffee, and at some point that's going to catch up to me. Some point, yeah, I don't know if you can tell, but I'm like bouncing my knee under the desk right now. You may have seen my head kind of bobbing up and down because I'm doing the pee-pee dance a little bit, but
I recognize that.
I want to get through the end here. So,
God, there was something I wanted to mention, and that's completely skipped out of my head.
Well, one of the things that I want to make sure that I mention is that though it's not a spoiler, but like the fact that Naomi did not save everybody she could have saved in this episode is a thing that will shape that character in seasons to come. Will shape her decisions, and maybe the most emotionally significant scene will play off of Naomi's experience on Eros in this episode.
Absolutely. 100% agree with that, Stephen. The Scooby gang gets split up.
Yeah.
Holden goes off and has man bonding time with Miller. So the two people who are like the ones you would think would have the most conflict and did initially end up going off together on an adventure. And the rest of the crew, Naomi, Amos, and Alex, are trying to get, both groups are trying to get back to the ship to get off of what's happening on Eros, which is just pure pandemonium, chaos, sickness, death. It's just a horrorscape.
Padar mentioned Miller getting revenge on the guy that crucified Havelock. That is a great moment. And I remember watching that, and and at first they don't make much of it. I'm like, wait a second, that's the guy. That's the guy. And I love Miller acting the role of sort of.
I'm an old man. Help me up. Bam.
Well, no. Before that, when he plays the role of what you'd expect from a belter,
right? Those guys that are like stirring up the giving the speeches on Sirius Station about the belter's gonna stand up, got to stand up, brother.
And you also get the sense that he is sort of acting a role, but that's also him entering this new phase of embracing that part of who he is, which I really like.
Miller's not dumb. He knows all the talking points. He knows that they're not just mouthing things that aren't true, because the plight of the belters, he was a belter rat. He grew up, as he said, in a pachinko parlor, stealing coins so that he and Simi could eat for a week.
Do you want to be an ass or want to be a boot?
The ass or the boot, and that was the question that they posed to him. And he was, as an orphan, a ward of the state. He kind of had to do what he had to do to survive in a situation that really wasn't very kind to people that didn't have other people looking out for them. So him growing up in the system and then eventually joining the system sort of kind of makes sense, because he knew not to bite the hand that was feeding him. So we get a lot of bits and pieces of Miller's story.
And what's the name of his friend again? I couldn't remember.
Which one? There's Simi and there's Havelock. Havelock was his partner.
Havelock was
the black guy that totally gets gagged by Amos in this episode, and it's brilliant the way they handled that.
Yeah, and can I just say that I thought that was really crappy that he was ready to just leave Miller. I get why survival and all that, but it's like, dude, this is your friend. You're not going to wait a couple minutes for him?
Yeah, I kind of agree, but like that, I believe it is a story choice, and who can say in that situation, you're like, we're going to die if we stay here. We have to go.
Yeah,
but it just, it was one of those things where it made me, and this isn't a criticism of like the writing or anything, but I'm saying, but it did make me feel less conflicted when Amos shoots him. It's like, you kind of deserve it.
We wait.
but like the way he's so nonchalantly just kind of
that's
wanders off, and then blood on Naomi's face, and it's like, whoa.
This is, again, even though I say that, it made me feel less conflicted, it is still a supremely chilling moment. And it's not even the fact that he shoots him. It's what he says afterwards. It's, I'm going to take this, below decks or whatever. I'm going to take this. It's not a person. It's, it's just a thing that he has to get rid of. And that again goes back to, I'm split between Amos as a lunatic or, someone who's kind of lovable.
and maybe a bit of both in the same moment.
Yeah. And the fact that that Amos hadn't even had a chance to move it by the time that Miller and Holden are showing up shows just how close they were to leaving their friends behind, because they hadn't even had a chance to move the body yet. And here's the people that we were waiting on all this time just shows up looking like hell in the airlock.
And again, I love that moment. It's just so funny.
Yep.
Oh man, I can't wait for you to see the fallout.
And you asked me to mention cinematography
yesterday,
and that's one of the parts. I mean, I think I said it earlier, but just the way the camera is framed on Amos and that shot coming out of the hatch, it's just because it adds a comedic element to that moment that you wouldn't have if it was framed normally. It's the fact that he's down near the bottom of the screen and he says, "You guys look like hell." It's just, it's absolutely hilarious.
Yeah, they did really good job with all of that.
I couldn't agree more. And okay, I'm going to move towards talking about an individual character at a time, maybe. I'm not going to try to keep this going just a whole lot longer, y'all. So maybe another 10 or 15 minutes.
Okay.
Unless you need to go now, Nessie, or you need to go.
No, I don't know. I could go on for another hour, but that's me because
honestly, I know you're gonna have to go, Stephen. But as far as I'm concerned,
hey, if y'all are cool with just talking while I go to the bathroom here for a minute, we can keep it going after that. But I do want to get a couple of things in. I wanted to make sure that I talked about certain characters specifically, and one of those was Christian Avasarala, played by Shoreya Agdrashlu. I'm sure I butchered that name, but I tried.
My whole game plan was to wait for one of you to pronounce it.
Right. Well, if you're waiting on me, unofficial. But she was my favorite character from season 1. She was elegant and loving to her family, but she was also powerful and dangerous and cutthroat when it demanded it. To me, she is a fantastic sort of a fantastically imagined strong female character. She is strong female character. She is a strong female character without taking on a lot of traditionally masculine traits, which a lot of times is a fallback way that a lot of writers use to, she's a strong character. Well, how do we know? Well, she doesn't, she scratches herself and she spits and she kicks butt and, she can punch you in the face. And, they sort of masculize a woman to make her strong. And Christian is beautiful and elegant and carries herself with poise. Okay. She curses like a sailor a little bit, but I don't even think she does that because she has a particularly.
Well, I think I saw, because I actually watched a couple of the behind-the-scenes featurettes online, and they made a comment about apparently there's more swearing in the books, and they cut back on it, but she was really happy because in the episode where she talks with Holden's mother, she's walking away after she gets the news that they're gonna take Holden out, and she goes, "Shit."
Yeah,
and she said she relished that, which I love.
Oh yeah,
and that's the thing. She curses, but if you want to say that's a masculine trait, you can make that argument for yourself. I'm not going there. But like, I think she's such a fantastically realized character because she's clearly in charge in every room she walks into, while not being masculine, not being physically imposing or like having to shout louder than everyone else. Sometimes she's very quiet, you know.
Mm-hmm. You know who's in charge.
But she drops those F-bombs and what have you in the right moment to make other people realize that she's not playing around.
Yeah, absolutely. It's part of her mask.
Ooh, that's a really great way of putting it, Jess. She curses to show emotion without her emotion taking control.
Right.
And I'd be remiss if I didn't mention just her final scene of the season when she's on the roof. And, you know, just talking about how she needs to play the role, you know.
Okay, y'all, keep the conversation going. I'll be back in a minute.
Okay.
Pause for the call.
But yeah, it's just that's, again, a moment where I was like, I'm on board with her character. You know, she's great. And so now I go into the second season with a completely different, you know, point of view on her than I ever expected starting the show.
Right. Those rooftop moments that you get throughout the seasons, where she's having the conversations with her grandson, or she's having those intimate moments with her husband, or when she really, really just lets her guard down and you just see into this woman's heart about what really makes her tick, what is most important to her, how she just lets all of her guard down, because when she's in her role as her UN role, you know, she has to be so many different things and play so many different roles and have on different game faces depending on who she's dealing with, that you're never really sure of, like, who the actual person, Christian Avasarala, is. But when she's just having those moments with her husband on the roof, I think that's when you really, really get to see into her heart and what she's all about. And I think they did that brilliantly, because they do it outside under the stars, where there's no walls, nothing but them and the open expanse of the sky. And it's just like all the walls are down, you know. It just shows that all the walls are down. There's nothing but them in that moment, and it's just like a really beautiful scene.
Yeah, and one scene from early on in the season that we didn't really talk about was her conversation with, I'm never going to remember the character's name, but the older gentleman who's her friend, who she basically tricks into giving them information by, you know.
The guy that's the ambassador to Mars.
Yeah, that conversation between the two of them, just when he's telling the story of, you know, when she was little, and, you know, he says, you know, I realize that you'll do anything to win. I won't play with you ever again. I mean, that just, even though I wasn't really emotionally invested in those first couple episodes, that really sort of tugged at my heartstring.
Yeah.
Right.
That was a great scene.
And that really does explain a lot of how she does business, or a lot about how she was maintains the power that she does have in this world that is, you know, it's so big, and dealing with these other very, very powerful people. You know, she has to play, as I was telling John earlier, when she's on the roof, she's her walls are down, but when she's in public, when she has her other persona, she wears the mask, and you never know which Avasarala you're dealing with, whether it's the one who is Earth first, or if it's the one who's trying to save all the children in the system, prevent a war. You really don't know, and who or what side, what game she's playing, because she's always going to change the rules if she doesn't like them.
Yeah.
Yeah, she's playing to win.
She is playing to win. And winning means she's on the team of let's not blow shit up.
Right. And that's yeah, just great character. I wanted to make sure that she got her due. You know, we talked about several great characters, and she's come up a few times, but like, to me, just, you know, great female characters are not written every day, and great female characters written for a woman over 50 also really not written every day.
I love her because
and
you know, that's.
sorry.
I said I really, really love her, and I can really relate to this character because, like you say, there's not that many great older roles. And you know, I turned 50 this year, and a lot of this really hits home to me. You know, getting older and looking at the perspectives change. So her character just really speaks to me. So that's why I have to say she's my favorite character. I think because I just relate to her so well. At least at this time in my life.
And this, you know, going back to what I was saying before, it's the fact that you don't see many characters of that age playing this type of role. You know, that just sort of added to my preconceived notions of the character when the show started, because it's like, all right, she's playing this elder stateswoman who's, you know, being played up as sort of a villainous type of character. I've seen Hollywood sort of throw this at her before,
but it's not the character you think it is at first.
Yeah, and it's just, you know, while I wouldn't say that she's necessarily one of my favorite characters, at least not yet, she's an incredibly, you know, fascinating character, and I really can't wait to see, you know, what she does in the next couple seasons.
Yeah.
Whatever she wants.
All I'm going to say is Team ABC. Team ABC. Wait for it. You'll find out what Team ABC is. I don't even know if you've met B in that. No, B doesn't exist yet in that equation.
I have no idea what you're talking about.
Right, you will. By the end of next season, you will know.
By the beginning of next season, you'll know. Yeah.
It takes a little while for that team to come together, but like at least, yeah.
You meet the B.
You meet B, and she's awesome. Anyway,
yeah.
We're like skirting around spoilers here with John so bad today. I'm sorry, man. I can't.
Like, for the most part, you guys have done a really good job of not betraying anything, you know, accidentally, which you know, is always a danger. But
right.
I wouldn't want to spoil it for you, John, because it's just, you know, you never get this chance to be innocent. So enjoy it.
Yeah, my biggest fear is I don't know if you guys have been reading Kim's book yet, but in the prologue to, you know, her book, she talks about getting spoiled on the Red Wedding. And it's like,
you mean this book right here, The Unofficial Guide to Game of Thrones by Ken Renfro. Get your books now at all your local bookstores.
I just, the idea of something like that is horrifying to me.
Yeah, we're not gonna Red Wedding you, John.
Yeah. Diesel is asking about the Naboo behemoth ship scenes. We're only talking about season 1, Diesel, because John has only seen season 1. We're doing one season at a time, so there's not a whole lot with the Naboo to have been seen yet.
Right. Other than it's the biggest generation ship that's ever been built.
Yeah.
Generational. It's going to take all of the Church of Latter-day Saints out into the great unknown. So we did discuss that in the conversation, but not connected it, repeated, you know, specifically with the ship that's being built on Tycho.
Yeah,
because only Tycho could do it.
I know we mentioned it earlier, but I love, you know, that scene where Fred Johnson is kind of, you know, playing, you know, with, you know,
he's shaking down the Mormon. So to speak.
Yeah.
I think we all just
like, you never know what could happen, and it's like
little minor mistakes. You're so far away.
It's so brilliant because at that point you don't know what he will and won't do, but you come to realize later he probably wouldn't do anything. but he knows that the Mormons don't know that necessarily.
Yeah,
so
he's using his own reputation.
Right.
His own reputation to his advantage.
Yeah.
Yeah, or his, how others perceive him. So, yeah.
Yeah. So, guys,
Leviathan.
if you want to bring up anything else specifically about a character, that's fine. But Anna actually brings up something that I feel is true, and it's that the show did representation right.
Absolutely.
There are gay characters. Gay is not. It's something you don't even know about them, and it's not even that big a deal.
It's not even a thing.
Right. And there's Asians who are good guys and bad guys. And there is an Indian with a Texas accent, and there's a white guy, and there's a black lady, and
a poly marriage.
Yeah. So like the show has done a really good job of making it look like a slice of modern humanity. And that's not something that every show can say. You know?
Well, I'm probably not a good person to ask about this, because this type of stuff usually goes over my head, because I'm so immersed in stories usually that I don't even think about it, which, you know, this is part of just the privileged position of being a white guy. But
right, at least you recognize it.
But it's the fact that I didn't even take note of the sort of, you know, juxtaposition of Alex, of, you know, sort of his nationality and his Texas drawl. You know, I just, you know, he was just such a lovable, you know, great character, and it's great that you bring that up, because it's something that I didn't even think about. But, you know, maybe that's the way it should be. You know, I fall in love with these characters who are different.
Yeah, it was episode 3, and I didn't touch on it at the time when we were talking about it earlier, but episode 3 was the one where the Martian the ambassador to Mars, he and his husband go to Avasarala's for dinner, and it's like, oh, gay man, okay, but like, just showed up to dinner with his husband, and that was it, and they didn't like touch on his sexuality at all. He just happened to have a husband, and then also you had, I can't think of her name, she's a minor character, but there's a sex worker who has a few scenes with Havelock, and I can't remember her name, but like, a sex worker treated like an actual human being person, and, you know, she's
that goes into what I was saying about Miller earlier, where even though he's probably my favorite character, he's got elements of his personality that aren't that appealing. It's when he, you know, accuses her of setting Havelock up, and it's like, really? You know,
but that's Miller at his most jaded too.
Yeah.
But Amos, at the same time, the person that you're like, oh, this guy he's not a good guy. There's a scene later with, I think he and Alex are on Psycho.
How do they treat you here? Be careful for that guy. He's got a knife. Yeah.
And he asked him, you know, how do they treat you here? You know, how do you know? And he's like, they're pretty good. And he's like, you can tell a lot about the place by how they treat their workers.
What's Alex's line after he finds out that Amos grew up in a place like that?
Yeah, it was.
I can't remember it, but it's just another one of those great Alex lines about, you must have been happier than a
puppy with 2 peckers.
Yeah.
You know, you laugh. I'm a Texan. That is something that is literally just said here. You know.
Yeah, here too.
Come on, you're from the South, John.
No. Okay. I guess you could say that. Technically, I was born in Maryland, but I've lived most of my life here. But see, I've never really considered Florida to be the South. It's kind of its own weird thing.
It is. Florida.
Yeah, I would agree. There's the South, and then there's Florida.
Yeah, which you can say whether it's better or worse.
You're right. I can say.
Yeah, that's why Florida Man is a thing. So.
Right, my favorite superhero, the never-ending adventures of Florida Man.
Yeah.
Okay, so anything else you guys want to touch on? Anything else?
hold on. Let me talk about something else because there was something I had on my mind. It'll
Okay,
come back.
anything in the chat? Anybody from the chat want to bring something up? We've been on 2.5 hours. This is like 30 minutes longer than I normally go. So you guys are getting the extra super bonus today.
Oh wait, okay, I know what it was.
Go, John.
Because I meant to talk about this when you mentioned the dinner with Christian, her husband, and the gay couple. What's great about that is it's a sign of how far entertainment has come in a relatively short period of time. Because I can remember when, it's not a very good movie, but I'm just going to use it as an example. I remember back in 2004 when I went to the movies to see Oliver Stone's Alexander.
Yeah, not a great movie.
Yeah, it has some stuff that I like, but yeah,
fine, not great.
It's not a good movie. But it's every time that they essentially did, what you would call the gay stuff, where it was like, oh, look at this. We're trying to, obviously make this as in your face. I'm not saying that's coming out wrong. I don't mean it shouldn't be in your face, but it was made like we have to make the biggest deal in the world about this, and it felt so unnatural.
Yeah.
Right.
And what's great about a scene like this is that it's just the most natural thing in the world. Absolutely. And it's just a sign to me of how much better sort of the industry has gotten at
have to give it
portraying couples who are gay or or any other thing. It's right. It's beautiful to see.
I agree. Couldn't agree more.
Yeah. Leviathan, the Leviathan.
Okay.
One thing I wanted to say, because me, I'm the chick who's going to read all the weird mythology books.
Do it. Bring it to me. Bring it mythology.
Yeah. The name of the book, the first book, which the first series is based on, is called Leviathan Wakes. In which, of course, they thought that was the name of the final episode of the season. And the Leviathan in mythology it's this weird little minor thing that you have to have some obscure whatever time on your hands to go look at. But it's a thing in Near Eastern mythology that crosses, through Judaism and
I know it's in the Old Testament.
Yes, it's in the Old. It's in the Old Testament, but it's also in like Syria and Canaanite and Mesopotamian culture. It is the and in this particular reference, the Leviathan itself is in the Judeo-Christian mythology, the mythos. It was one of three beasts that was created by Yahweh, who was, the God in the Old Testament. One was the beast of the air, one was a beast of the earth, and the Leviathan was beast of the sea. And Leviathan was considered to be the most powerful of all of God's creatures at the time. And there were two initially, because God makes two of things, and it was considered to be so powerful that the female of the creature had to be killed because it would devour and overrun the earth. So in a very esoteric kind of sense, you look at the protomolecule itself as a something from the void, the vast void of space, which could be in a sense like the sea of space, who's come to our galaxy. And if it hadn't been checked, that it would have overrun and devoured the earth. And it's telling that it was the female of the Leviathan that was actually destroyed by God to prevent this, because it could possibly, the female could possibly have been with child. So it had to have been the one to be taken out. And as we see at the end of Leviathan Wakes, the female character is the one that's actually is being consumed and infected by the protomolecule and kind of is in the state of possibly becoming. We don't know what this experiment is going on, but it's waking. The protomolecule is waking.
Leviathan being that thing that can destroy all the world, and
Good. I'm glad you guys are saying that, because I had figured reading up on the Leviathan, just that it was indicating the protomolecule, and I just want to make sure I wasn't off base on.
No, you're spot on, John. So,
there might be to it further beyond that, but I think that's the obvious reference.
Right. Yeah. Created by God, they could destroy the world.
Oh, and I also I want to interject one thing, because it's a thought I had earlier and I forgot to mention it. There's a detail that when they find Julie, and it almost looks like it's these star-shaped things that have come out of her. Well, there's a scene in the finale where right before the train comes to a stop, and the doors open and they see all the infected people. Right before that, it's either Miller or God, now I'm forgetting. Holden. It's either Miller or Holden is standing next to one of the stalls or whatever, and there's some decorative lights, and a bunch of them are stars, and it just it hit me on the second viewing that it's it's a little production design touch that we see that right before the doors open and you see all these infected people. So
I need to rewatch that.
Some people might think I'm reaching with that, but those are the kind of details I pay attention to.
No. I'm glad you said something. You've literally got me going, I need to revisit that scene.
Yeah, the stars are just like the big thing. Every episode, it's all about reaching for the stars, and the man's reaching for the stars, and how we get there. So that's very much an underlying theme of the whole series, John. So you're not wrong there. Not at all.
I would think so.
That's a great catch. That little subtle clue that I certainly didn't pick up, because that's not.
Blame my TV production teacher from high school, who was also my science fiction teacher, and yes, we had a science fiction class where he would have us watch movies, and he would pause movies every couple of minutes and break down foreshadowing and little hints and stuff.
So I wish I had that class in high school.
Yeah, so now whenever I watch stuff, that's I'm paying attention to all that stuff. And people who watch stuff with me are often like, how do you spot that? And it's just second nature, because that's how I was trained.
Right on.
Yeah. Oh man.
Any other season 1 stuff? Anything else? I think we pretty well covered it.
I think so.
I'm with you, Jess. Sci-fi class, why didn't I get that?
Yeah, why didn't I get this?
And that class is the only reason that I probably love 2001: A Space Odyssey, because I don't think otherwise I would have
Kubrick
sort of fallen in love with that.
Kubrick is insane, but he's also a genius. So
I think about Space Odyssey a lot in relationship with The Expanse. I really do. The obelisk and the monkeys, and we're just trying to operate a microwave. Monkeys trying to operate a microwave.
Yeah.
Is very much like.
Edar asks, has The Expanse hurt my appreciation of other sci-fi? I mean, I don't know that it's hurt my appreciation of other sci-fi, but it has raised the bar for what great sci-fi is for me. I could still say that the sci-fi shows that I watched in the past, like Stargate and Battlestar Galactica, I think they're still great, but I think The Expanse is better.
I'm going to put myself on the record and say that Battlestar Galactica is still probably my favorite sci-fi show. But having said that, I haven't finished.
Right, you're 1 season in, man. I mean, and
you never know. But
I probably would have said the same thing at the end of first season.
Mm-hmm. I watched the original, so I
just can.
The
I'll never
really good.
I'll never get enough of Gaius Baltar. He's just.
Yeah, I'm an '80s kid. I came of age in the '80s. I was
on
like
the old BSG.
Yeah. Oh, that was Sunday evenings. Every Sunday evening, we tuned into the old BSG, waiting every week for it. And it was so good. I was like, oh, man, because Star Wars had just come out in the theaters. And yes, I saw it in the theaters, the original, when it came out. I'm that old. I'm this many old. And, John Williams score.
29. For those of you that didn't notice, she held up 29.
29, yes. Yeah, and these are the things that I'm holding it up against, because this is what shaped my sci-fi, my perspective. And these are, and that was like so long ago. But at the time, it was such cutting edge stuff. We had never seen anything like Battlestar Galactica on television. Even
Right.
I mean, it made the cheesy Star Trek episodes before, but which we all watched. Let's face it, I watched them.
The Expanse is better.
But the Expanse is better. It has blown my mind in a way.
It is. I tell people, like
when my 8-year-old mind exploded, then it is exploding now.
Really loved Star Trek of all different types. Been a fan of Star Trek most of my life. Not a huge fan, but a fan. Battlestar Galactica, Stargate SG-1, Stargate Atlantis, Babylon 5. I see some love for Farscape.
Mm-hmm.
Watched all of that stuff and considered it to be very enjoyable. Yeah. But The Expanse has risen to the #1 sci-fi show for me.
It's raised the bar. It has really raised the bar. And I mean, we've got some things coming up, this year that's, might change my mind on that, but we've got some good sci-fi coming up. Mm-hmm. And, I'm really looking forward to that too. I might have to buy another channel on my ever-growing streaming budget because, I'm going to have to check a few things out. But yeah, oh God, it's so good. We live in an age of wonder and terror.
Yes.
That we have such great things on television.
Anna Iglesias, sorry, just mentioned waiting for Dune.
Yes.
I have not read Dune. I have not seen any of the prior adaptations, but I freaking love Denis Villeneuve. And Blade Runner 2049 is one of my favorite science fiction films of all time. So I cannot wait for this. I'm just so on board, and I don't even know anything about Dune. But I do have a copy of the book, a hardcover edition, which I am hoping to get to relatively soon. Mm-hmm. But because of our panel, it has to wait until after my Song of Ice and Fire reread.
Okay. There you have it. All right, guys. Well, this has been a really excellent talk, but the counter is at over 2.5 hours now.
Yeah, we did good.
We did great.
I didn't think we were going to get
I'm
even.
so happy and excited that my debut on the stream is the first one to go this long.
Yeah.
So,
and I'm happy to have had you both. So, I don't know if anybody has anything else left to say. I think we'd just be retreading the same ground at this point.
Yeah, I think we pretty much covered everything. And I mean, if anybody's got any questions or things they want to talk about the show, about season 1, we're all there on the Twitterverse. Just hit us up and, we could talk for hours. We can nerd out for hours, online about things like this.
Yep. So that having been said, all of our Twitter links are in the description of this video down below. That's Nessie, One Questing Beast. John here is John Webster Film, and me, Real Steven Stark. Guys, thanks you so much for coming.
Thank you, Steven.
And bringing your unique perspectives and ideas. And as I said before, 2 weeks from tonight, we will be doing a season 2. Nessie works weekends. She is a nurse, and she works every other Sunday. So her off Sundays, we're going to be getting caught up. So 2 weeks from today.
Thank you, Danny. Danny just said great job on my first stream. Thank you very much.
Yeah, you did. You were awesome, John. You had plenty to say. I'm can't wait to work with you again.
Yep.
And
now you're my new little brother. I've adopted you. You're mine now.
And to those of you that showed up, I mean, I see a lot of my regulars here in the stream, but I saw a few names of people that I didn't quite know, and I'm happy to have you guys on for all the Expanse coverage I'm going to do. Again, 2 weeks for the next episode of the Expanse. Next week, I'm going to be going back to my my other series that I do called I Know That Nerd, and again, we're going to have Gray Area, which if you're into watching the Game of Thrones based stuff on YouTube, you know who she is.
You better know.
She's hard too. She will definitely let you know what's on her mind, and that's an I Know That Nerd I'm really looking forward to.
Can I just say something that is a funny little story about Gray Area? I don't know her, but after Con of Thrones, when I was first starting to reach out to some people on Twitter and I was following people, I started following Sam. I don't know her last name, but
Adolfo?
Yes, Sam Adolfo.
Okay. Now I know.
And
Sam,
and
the most
valuable player.
She made a comment about how her and Gray Area got married at Con of Thrones, sort of joking around. And of course, since I didn't know either of them, and even so now I only kind of know Sam, I completely took that for serious. And so I wrote on there, congratulations, like completely straightforward. But I think she thought I was in on the joke because she didn't respond like, wait, no.
Yeah. That's a lady who is, Sam is on the list for I Know That Nerd. I'm going to have her on at some point.
She's
awesome.
I love her.
Oh my gosh, she's awesome. All smiles all the time. I'm going to try to have a 2-hour stream where I don't make her cry once.
Good luck.
I know it's going to be tough.
That's her thing.
Yeah, she's not called
it's going to finally be somebody on my side because it'll be a season 8 supporter for the first time.
Oh no, go back and watch my my interview with Shakes. Shakes is one of the most.
Well, that's right, she was. Well, the other side is so overwhelming that I forget these things.
Right.
Yeah, and Joe Magician, he very much loves season 8.
And and I've had him on as well.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
He might have been the second or third. No, he wasn't the second.
Sorry, go ahead.
I was just saying I've had Joe on I Know That Nerd, Joe Magician, like the third person I ever had on. Something like that. Mm-hmm. But anyway, y'all, this was a great stream. I had a lot of fun. Thanks to everybody who showed up in the chat to keep us company and keep the jokes and the good times rolling and fact check and just sharing the fun. Thank you, Nessie. Thank you, John.
I'm just so excited I get to start season 2 now.
Yeah, you can start it basically right now. So come back next week for I Know That Nerd with Gray Area. Come back in 2 weeks for season 2 of the Expanse review. Our social media links are in the description. Also, the link to my Patreon is in the subscription. Everything I do on my channel will always be free for everyone, but I do little extra non-video stuff for my patrons here and there. And I do like to do giveaways and send stuff out. Don't believe me? Ask Ridiculous Ed. He won some stuff last month. So yeah. But so subscribe to the Patreon if you are so inclined and able. If not, thanks for just showing up and watching. It's been a blast. And so I guess we'll see you next Sunday. And until then, peace. And
love and
bye, guys.
Bye, everyone.
Bye.